I'm Austin Federa. I'm thrilled to welcome you back to Lisbon for Breakpoint 2022. So this crazy idea last year of getting 1,000, 2,000 people from the Solana ecosystem to come to Breakpoint started as this sort of crazy dream in like June of 21. We had 2,100 people join us last year. This year, there's over 3,600 of you who have made the journey to Lisbon to come to Breakpoint. Crazy numbers. On top of that, of course, there's a live stream. So thank you to all the people joining us virtually, and especially now, coming out in person, spending money and time to travel, to come to a conference. It's really appreciated, and we've got a lot planned to make this day and this next 3 days worth your time. So it's a distributed network. It's a distributed conference. So here's a map so you can see all of our plans for the 4 venues over the next 3 days. Each one of them has slightly different types of programming and different types of experiences you can have. So first, we're going to start with the laboratory. This is the home of technical workshops and tutorials on the network. So there's a few of these I'm particularly excited about. There's a workshop on how to use Token 22, which is a new token standard that's coming to the network. And of course, oh boy, an anchor workshop. You can blame me for that bad pun. Next up, the Acropolis. This is where we are today. This is where you'll hear some of the biggest news and updates from folks in the Solana ecosystem. Up soon today is the Saga continues, updates from Solana Mobile. Very excited to hear that. And we're also going to get a demo from Kevin, who runs Firedancer project, which is the implementation of the Solana Validator client built by a completely independent team. So Solana is actually the first network after Ethereum to have this capability. They've been working on it for a number of months. It's not launching. I just want to be very clear. But you're going to see demos of code improvements that are actually bringing massive performance increases in testing environments and that you can see coming to the network soon. You'll also hear from Amir on the state of Helium. So Helium voted as part of HIP 70 to actually move from their Layer 1 blockchain to Solana as the home for their new Layer 1. This is a huge migration and a huge accomplishment, both for the Helium community and for the Solana community. So really excited to hear more of what we have in store for that. Moving on, the forum is our home for big ideas and conversations. These are things that don't necessarily have a news hook to them, but they're the kind of conversations that when you go to a conference, you usually have in the lobby or you have over dinner, right? These are big thoughts and ideas about the future of blockchain. This is not always Solana specific. We have a bunch of conversations on zero knowledge, on how you scale networks and these sorts of things. Are wallets entering the browser wars era is a question that some folks have asked me. We're going to have that conversation on stage. Battle royalties, and again, another terrible pun. I apologize. On the future of monetization for NFT projects and where we all kind of go from there. As well as I want to call out at about 6 p.m. there today, Anatoly, co-founder of Solana, is going to be giving an overview of some of the hard problems that engineers are solving on the network today, as well as some of those hard problems looking into the future that we need all of you to help in building solutions for. So don't miss that one. That's this afternoon. It's called Looking Back, Looking Forward. Highly recommend you make it to that one, or at least tune in from the live stream. The Square also, stop me if you've seen this venue before. If you've been in Lisbon for the last week or so, you may have been to the Solana Hacker House in Lisbon or the Solana Foundation Games Day. Over 2,000 people came to both of those over the course of those days. This is kind of where it all started. This is the 24th Hacker House that we had over the last 12 months, the first one starting in Lisbon. So it's nice to close out the year with that again. Here is actually designed to be more of a community space. This is run closer to a hacker house than a conference. So it's some space to hang out, some space to potentially get some work done, some open mic opportunities as well, and an ability to get your dApp roasted, get some hard criticisms on the stuff that you're building. To help you get around, there are shuttle bus services. Shuttle buses will loop between the Acropolis, the Square, the Laboratory, and the Forum about every 15 minutes. They're scheduled to run for the next 3 days from 11 a.m. to 11 p.m. The shuttles are a great way to get around, especially if you're planning to head over to the Forum. It is about a 20-minute journey, so make sure you build in that time in your schedule. So speaking of that, we have a nice handy Gantt chart, because everyone loves Gantt charts, to show you how to actually think about your days. So again, we have 3 days planned here. Today is just the first. The laboratory starts at about 10 a.m. each day, and it wraps up somewhere around 3 p.m. There's a ton of really great in-depth technical workshops happening there. If you're a developer, that is the schedule that you will be very interested in looking through and seeing. Additionally, the Acropolis, where we are today, is meant to sort of be the middle section of your day. You'll hear some of the biggest news and announcements from companies deciding to build on Solana, from organizations that are bringing new frameworks to the network, and just from updates on things like the Metaplex protocol. They're going to give a State of the Union here and talk about what the last 14 months of development has been for them. The Square, as I said, place to spend some time and hang out, open conversations. And then in the evening, that's really where you should head to the forum. And that's where you'll see some of these conversations around the future of blockchains, the futures of networks. How do we, bring decentralization even more to the network? These are things that, again, don't really have a news hook to them. It's not necessarily like you're going to be going there and there's going to be a big announcement from someone. But these are the things that a lot of people are thinking about, especially in this market we're in, that gives people time to slow down and to focus on building the fundamentals that set us up for success over the next number of years. So remember, this is your chance here to learn, to take some amazing memories, to see panels. Solana launched in March, its mainnet beta in March of 2020, right? If you remember that was not the brightest time. And so last year at Breakpoint was the first time most people building on the network had actually been able to meet each other in person. That energy really carried us through, and that is something that I think we all should replicate here in the next 3 days as well. So reach out to folks you don't know on Twitter if you see them tweeting about being in Lisbon. Spend some time, reach out to devs. Like, it's crazy to go from, you'll walk around, you'll see people look at their name badges and be like, oh, it's you, and like give each other a hug because you're no longer a JPEG on Twitter. You're actually a real person in real life. It's really lovely to see that. So right after the State of Solana Network, we'll go into an opening celebration tonight. This is again at the forum at 7 p.m. So now I'd like to invite two of Solana's co-founders to join us on stage to talk a little bit about what's going to happen over the next few days. Raj and Anatoly.
Wow.
Holy shit.
How's it feel to be back in Lisbon?
It's awesome. I mean, it's crazy that there's 50% more people here this year than last year.
I think more at this point. There were like 400 new registrations yesterday, it seems like.
Yeah,
people are seeing what's happening on Twitter, and they're signing up last minute and just booking flights, which is incredible.
Yeah. So last year, obviously the first time that one of these big conferences took place for Solana Network, what were some of your takeaways and advice for folks coming into the next 3 days?
There's a lot of stuff to do, so pick your favorite panels and go and hang out and actually pay attention to the speakers because they put in a lot of effort in making some awesome presentations. Some of my favorites are compressed NFTs. That's just an awesome piece of technology. Imagine minting 1 million NFTs for 5 SOL. I think it can really change the entire gaming and NFT landscape.
Yeah. What about you, Raj? What are you excited about?
Yeah, I mean, I think you said it earlier, but Breakpoint last year was about coming out of lockdown and the pandemic, and we didn't know what was going to happen, but we knew that everyone just getting together, celebrating their wins from the year, and finally seeing each other in person and just making connections was going to result in some kind of magic. And I don't think anybody could have predicted the roller coaster that would have resulted from the last year, but I think this year it's the same. The network's been stress tested. I think now the community gets stress tested, and I'm excited to see people support each other and just form meaningful and lasting friendships.
Any panels you're particularly excited about?
Yeah, I mean, Firedancer panel is incredible. It's called, I don't know if you said the title, Hold Me Closer, Firedancer. I think that's the best pun, for sure, and the most exciting technical lift. Instagram is here, and they have, Instagram and Facebook just announced NFT support for Solana, which is huge. Yeah, incredible. and Stripe and Google and other huge folks that are excited about Solana ecosystem. So all that is great. Did everybody go to Games Day yesterday? That was awesome. It already feels like we're halfway into the conference. So seeing folks build in the Hacker House and Games Day, that was one of my highlights.
Yeah, check out the Soulflare demo with Saga. It's pretty awesome. And you get to see the whole Saga experience where when you hit sign, it's like you just tap your fingerprint scanner and it signs like Apple Pay. This is what I've been dreaming about for crypto, like actually treating crypto as a first-class citizen on mobile. Super excited about that.
That's great. That's coming up just later this morning, too.
Yeah.
So.
And like, folks, don't forget, like, these conferences and these events, this is a really good opportunity for all of you to make friends with each other, with the devs. And like, before you know it, the more often you come to these hacker houses and these events, you'll actually have a really strong community. You'll see the same people over and over. And these relationships and friendships that you build will last a lifetime.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thanks for joining us up here this morning to kick things off. Thank you all so much. We will hand things off to Amira now and get the program started.
Have fun.
It is so lovely to be here today. My name is Amira Valiani, and I am going to be your MC, your host with the most this morning. I will be here today. I'll be here all 3 days, and we're going to have a really awesome time. Is that right? Breakpoint, let's go. For me, today is a really special day because I got my start, not just in Solana, but in Web3, right here at Breakpoint. This time a year ago, I didn't know much about Web3. I was crypto curious, and I had a couple of friends say, if you want to get into this space, you should buy a ticket to Lisbon. And I was like, I'm not buying a ticket all the way from Boston to Lisbon. Like, that just feels like so much. But they said, trust me. And I'm so glad I did, because this community has welcomed me with open arms. And I went from not even knowing what Solana was not that long ago to being on stage here today, being your guide. So thank you so much for being my guide here. Yeah. It's an amazing group, and we have a packed day today. And this first guest that we have to bring you has something very special in store. See what I did there? We are going to welcome Vibhu Norby, and my goal out of this session and today is to have the Solana Spaces Twitter account troll me personally. So please give it up for Vibhu, and please get him to troll me.
DJ Nace was popping, DTP was popping, Solana Spaces dropping. I just got that brand new merch, red hoodie with pockets.
How awesome is that? That's the Solana Spaces anthem. Someone just sent it to us on Twitter. It's an amazing song. Thank you so much. Yes, I'm Vibhu. I'm the founder of Solana Spaces. And you guys are all on our Twitter right now. I just took a picture and posted it. So we built the Solana store. Maybe you've heard of it. With amazing partners like FTX, Phantom, Orca, Step, and many others. And just to know, this is a very interactive presentation. So you need to keep your phone on, keep your camera on, and throughout, we're going to be giving away products that we make live. What you're going to do is you're going to scan the code. It's going to bring you to a tweet. And you're going to find not that tweet, but the tweet below it. And you're going to like it. And then right after this presentation, I'm going to pick someone randomly and give you one of our things. So pay attention. Here's the first one. You see this clock. You get 10 seconds to scan it. This is the Solana Zip hoodie, one of our favorites. Did you get it? Just testing you. I'll give you 2 more seconds. OK, let's go. So, Solana Store. This is our store in New York City. It's really the first of its kind in the world. It's a place to learn, earn, and experience Solana in real life. This is Solana Spaces in New York City. So we launched that 3 months ago, and then 2 weeks ago, we launched the world's first crypto embassy. We call it the Solana Embassy. We put it in Miami, in Wynwood. And though it's similar functionality-wise to New York City, we took this to the next level. The Solana Embassy is a lounge, it's a community center, it's a nightclub, it's a coffee shop, and it's a store all wrapped in one. I'm going to show you what the embassy looks like in nightclub mode. How awesome is that? People come from all over the world to experience Solana in real life. We've hosted kids, college students. We just hosted the whole MBA class of NYU Stern. Corporations tours. They come to learn about crypto in real life, learn about Web3 in real life. We educate people on Solana, and we help them get set up with Phantom. We teach them about the basics of security and self-custody. In Miami, we also have the FTX Lounge. This is where people can learn about exchange and all the things that FTX is doing. Throughout our store, visitors scan QR codes and they complete tutorials right in the DApp browser in Phantom. In the process, they learn about everything from DeFi with Orca, gaming with the Rodri project, NFTs with Just Ape, and one-of-one art with Form Function, and a lot more. And so when a customer scans a QR code in the store, we're really able to form a deep relationship with the customer and their wallet. We can airdrop them things in the future. We can follow up with them and see what they've been doing on chain and how effective our tools were. And as an example, Portals, which is a metaverse project on Solana, after you take their tutorial, they drop you a Solana Citizen NFT card, and it gives you a special room theme inside of their metaverse. It's really, really cool. And when customers complete tutorials, we always give them an NFT. And some partners, they offer their own tokens. They give you their own NFTs. They give you merch as rewards and all kinds of things. And we really think that NFTs are a big part of the future of retail. And they create these kind of instantaneous and very sticky loyalty products just out of the box. But here we also designed a model to reward people for shopping. We call this Shop to Earn. So if you take enough tutorials in the store, we actually give you 10 USDC for free. And you can actually experience that today at our pop-up. Just come in, check in, do a tutorial, and we're going to give you 10 bucks. Not bad. Were you paying attention? These are the famous Solana shoes. These are in size 11. They're almost sold out. These are one of the last few we have. All right. Solana is a lot more than just a blockchain. The reason I fell in love with Solana was because of the culture. And pictured here, you can see the Degenerate Ape Academy and on these beautiful Mural frames. And Mural actually rolled out a Phantom integration just for us. Here's Just Ape. Solana is an enabler of big ideas and internet culture. These guys make amazing, high-quality products on par with any of the best fashion brands in the world. And we make a lot of products too. From the famous Solana shoes, or maybe infamous, the bowling shoes, to backpacks, prep bags, T-shirts, and a lot more. We're putting Solana everywhere. Here's a tie-dye hoodie. I'm catching you off guard. This one we actually sold out of. I know a lot of people here on the wait list, but we brought one. We have one special one here. I'm going to talk about the success of our products in a little bit. But, of course, Solana Pay is fundamental to the store experience. So if you have USDC in your wallet, you can pay and settle with us in seconds. It's really an amazing experience. I want to show you Clara trying Solana Pay for the first time at the embassy.
Okay, vamos.
This is our best-selling shirt, not financial advice. We're launching it in black for the winter.
And how do I pay that?
With Solana Pay.
Just 2 clicks.
Clara, cuéntanos qué te pareció tu primera transacción en USDC.
Muy fácil. En apenas 2 clics ya había concluido mi transacción.
2 clicks. I mean, it's literally better than a credit card. It's awesome. So since we launched 3 months ago, we've only been around for 3 months. I know it feels like a long time. It's been a quarter. We've hosted 30,000 people in the store, mostly in New York City. And we've helped people complete 10,000 Solana tutorials so far. We've done a lot of parties and meetups like the one I showed you. If you ask me what's the gap, it's because people love merch. 60% of the people that come into the store, they just want to go and browse the crypto merch. This is why we're so focused on this. Between Miami and New York City, we expect 200,000 people to come into our stores this year, about 70,000 to onboard into Phantom. These are real people. They're taking 10, 20, 30 minutes out of their day to learn about Solana. And these are a lot of folks that probably ignored it over the last few years, right? We really interrupt their day with this. And although we accept credit cards too, we've processed a lot of Solana Pay volume as well. And people love it. It's really rewarding. We'll probably do $500,000 in volume just through crypto pay. I think we're maybe one of the only stores in the world that's using this. And they also do our gasless NFT rewards. So it's all through Solana Pay. You scan a code, we give you an NFT. I think within this the next year, we're going to give out probably 250,000 NFTs for free to people. It's kind of crazy. And it's all powered by a point of sale called Decaf. All right, we got to talk about Twitter, okay? We designed our stores to be magnets for photos and videos. And to be honest, our Twitter has been a revelation. I want to share some stats with you, just from 3 months, okay? In 1,500 square feet locations, the size of the stage. We've driven more than 50,000 mentions for Solana, and 2 million people have visited our profile on our website to find out what we do, and 10 million impressions on Twitter alone. And it's really a viral sensation. It makes a lot of sense, right? People come in, they take photos, they take videos, they look really good, and then they share them, and then they get reshared. And not only on Twitter, but on TikTok and Instagram, it's been really a viral sensation. We're going to reach 50 million people in our first year. We really have fashioned ourselves more than just a store, but also as like the consumer marketing arm of Solana that doesn't have. And we really try to do new things every week. On Sundays, we drop these seed phrase puzzles. You can check those out. This is a new idea we launched a few weeks ago called NFT List. If you scan and you put your .sol address in, we send you high-quality artwork for free every single week on Wednesdays. And we have lots more experiments brewing. I sold $600 worth of ad slots right in the middle of my presentation. We're completely shameless. Made 60 slots, not bad, huh? All right, let's move on. Solana shoe size 10 is our most popular size. I'm just gonna annoy Chase. Do not fade the Solana shoes. All right. So, what's next? When? That's what everyone asks us over and over and over again. When Lisbon? When London? When San Francisco? When Dubai? When Delhi? And this is something that we've been working on since the beginning of the company. In fact, this was one of the the reasons that we created Solana Spaces. And we have your answers today. Bom dia DAO, it's my shirt. Today we're announcing Spaces DAO. Spaces DAO is the world's first on-chain retail co-op, and it's backed by a Colorado LCA. This is more than just any ordinary DAO. This is a bet that Solana is going to change how retail is done. We've built a lot in the last year. Solana Space is a very complex project. It's a coordination and orchestration between hardware design, software design, dApps, merch, physical space, and a lot more. And today, we're announcing that we've given everything we built to Spaces DAO. Now, anyone, anywhere, can build their own Solana store. And if you join the DAO, you can access everything that we've designed and built to create your own space in your own city. This is the first open source retailer. How do you join? Another big idea. We invented something called geo-NFTs. So it's very simple. We have an interface. You can carve out the borders of land on a map. And it's a new spec to offer proof of geography products. So a geo-NFT stores the coordinates on chain. They don't overlap. And you can send these as NFTs to people's wallets. So it's really simple. If you have a geo-NFT, you can redeem it one for one with the exclusive rights to open a Solana store in that region. So NFTs become contracts, and this is enforced by the DAO. This is a brand new way to build a franchise on chain. And there's two ways to get them. One, you can commit to build, and you get it for free from the DAO. But for the first time ever, geo-NFTs make location rights composable and tradable. And so occasionally, the DAO will actually auction off the rights to key markets like London or Dubai. We don't think it's a stretch to say that the next Wendy's or McDonald's or franchising business might be built on top of geo-NFTs. It offers a lot of power, and you can see more. We're going to be posting a Twitter thread right now. You can learn more about how this works. This is the reversible WAGMI NGMI bucket hat. I have 3 of them to give away. You literally flip it around. I know you weren't paying attention for this one. So, in addition to geo-NFTs, there's a lot of new ideas. I don't have time to share all of them with you that kind of power the DAO, but we really thought deeply about how do we make it, how do we make you successful, and how do we use crypto in interesting ways here. And so, with revenue bounties that are powered by a custom version of Super Team Earn, we offer built-in monetization tools for owners. So the DAO strikes partnerships with great brands that offer customer acquisition bounties, say $10 to onboard a customer into FTX, or $1,000 to display an NFT collection, and they can get paid right from the bounties. And with merch at cost, members can become the local hub for crypto merch, not just Solana merch. And what's amazing about this is that the more members that join the DAO, the larger orders the DAO can place for merch. And the lower the costs get, and the more they can drive margins. And in fact, this is why co-ops exist in the first place, is to do group buying. It's an amazing solution for crypto. And even if you're new to building stores, I've been building stores for almost 10 years. My team has been building stores for a long time, all over the globe. We're not going to let you fail. And there's one more thing. If you decide to join in certain regions of the world, the DAO itself, the treasury, is going to invest in your build-out, up to $50,000. So we've really made it easy to build your own Solana space. We want this everywhere. We have signed commitments from teams all over the world to build a Solana space in the region. And one of the coolest things about running this as an on-chain DAO is that it's not just individuals who are building stores, it's actually Solana ecosystem projects. Los Angeles is being built by the Cupcake team. Dubai is being built by an NFT community called Kets. Salt Lake City, Particles NFT. Mexico City, Decaf. I think Armani is building the one in Vienna, which is not on the slide. And the good news is that these are all launching in 2023. So we're going big time. We're going to put a Solana embassy in every city and Solana space in every town in the next 10 years. It launches now. You can go to spacesDAO.org. You can scan the QR code, follow the new account on Twitter at @spaces_DAO, and apply to join. We'd love to hear from you wherever you are. We really want you in Spaces DAO. This is it's been a labor of love for a long time to bring this to you guys. Well, there's one more thing. I can't let you go without telling you what is in the box. I don't know if you guys have seen this post. It went viral. We just posted this nondescript. It's not VHS tapes. Everybody got it wrong. Nobody got it right. You ready to find out what's in the box? Yeah. All right. This is the Solana Spaces Lego kit. You can literally build your own Solana space. And it's amazing. It's a full reproduction of the store. It's complete with Raj minifigures, Anatoly minifigures, Milo the dog. Let me show you some details. So we made 100 sets of these available. We sold 20 of them sight unseen to people on Twitter. So the way to get this is go to Convento del Beato, visit our pop-up, reserve one. They're going to go very fast. They're retailing for $420.69, very specific number. You can see everything in here. There's a mini Solana shoe. There's a mini Saga phone. There's like some of our merch. There's T-shirts. There's an ambassador. There's Solana Monkey Business has the NFT gallery. There's a Phantom seed phrase booth. The detail in this is really, really insane. We spent way too much time and money on this, to be very honest with you. And we're giving one away. We brought only a few to the conference, so this is one of the ones that we brought here to give to people. All right. Awesome. So, lastly, we have this amazing store. And in that store, you're going to find the Lego kit. You're going to find a lot of exclusive merch. Honestly, there's more people here than we expected. We didn't make enough. So go early and buy and get shirts like this Bum Dia DAO shirt I'm wearing today. But there's also partner merch there. There's Just Ape, there's FTX, there's amazing Step-In sweatshirts, and there's a few surprises as well. If you make the journey, you're definitely going to get hooked up. Thank you so much. It's been an honor to speak to you guys and to be building a Solana. And see you at the pop-up. Thank you.
Solana Spaces, how cool. I didn't know that they were going to announce Spaces DAO, and that idea is so inspiring to me. I mean, talk about permissionless for like a retail store and the opportunity to scale something so quickly. That is so freaking cool. Well, so thank you, Vibhu, for that. Up next, we have a group of people who are very, very popular. They're the most popular people at this conference. They've been hanging out at the Hacker House this whole week and Games Day yesterday, and everyone is trying to track them down because they got the goods. They got the phone. And they're going to come here. They're going to tell us the future of what is going on the Solana mobile stack and when you're going to be able to get those things in your hands. So please welcome the most popular people, the most interesting session, although all the sessions are going to be very interesting. The Solana mobile team, give it up.
My name is Stephen Laver, and I am the engineering lead for Solana Mobile. We're going to have a rapid-fire presentation today. We're going to have a chance to hear from both the Solana Mobile team as well as some of our partners. I'm excited to be back up here. It's been busy for us since our June announcement event, and we wanted to share some updates for Solana Mobile with you. If you've been with us from the start of this journey, some of this will be familiar, but there's also new details here for everyone. So to start, a brief recap of our June announcement. We had 2 announcements in June. The first, the Saga, a flagship crypto-first Android phone. We also announced the Solana mobile stack, which is a collection of technologies to unlock Web3 on mobile devices. First, Saga. It's got flagship specs, the latest Qualcomm processor, 12 gigs of RAM, 6.67-inch OLED display, all wrapped up in a beautiful industrial design. And we're excited to work with awesome products on designing and building this phone. $1,000, and you can reserve your spot in line by pre-ordering for $100. And for SMS, there's 3 components we're going to talk about today. Seed Vault, our solution for key custody. The Solana dApp Store, a fee-free application store for delivering Web3 content. And the Mobile Wallet Adapter, which is a protocol, an open protocol for connecting wallets and dApps on mobile devices. So, the question I get asked most often is, when will this be ready for all of you? I'd love to have everyone reach under their seats and find something Oprah-style, see their Saga waiting for them. But unfortunately, we can't just yet. Early next year, everyone who's been patiently waiting will be able to order their devices. We'll be prioritizing Saga Pass holders for the initial shipments. So if you haven't already, head to solanamobile.com, place your pre-order, and then you'll be ready for the next Saga Pass mint. In addition, next month, we'll be inviting software developers to order their hardware dev kits. These are pre-production phones that we want to get in the hands of builders who are readying their dApps for the Solana dApp Store, and also to integrate Seed Vault. They've been built, and they're just waiting for final software approval before they can be shipped out. The question I get asked second most is, why Saga? Why build a phone? I promise you, it's not just for the likes on crypto Twitter, although please keep liking on crypto Twitter. So we're not building this for what it is, just a great phone, but for what it can do. Why Saga is really why mobile. We're building this as our demonstration of what Web3 stands to gain by going mobile. Our phones are the primary way that we experience the digital world. They're always with us and always connected. With phones, engaging with the digital world no longer requires that we unpack a laptop, find a private space, hopefully have Wi-Fi. Everything is quick and continuous. SMS on mobile devices allows you to experience your NFTs, check your DeFi, play a few minutes of a crypto game, all on the go. Closely related to this is the idea of asynchronous and timely notifications. Your phone engaging with you when something important happens. So you don't have to dedicate those precious brain cells to remembering all the little things. So a change in your DeFi investments, an upcoming NFT mint, a message delivered to your phone on-chain. All of these are improved when you don't have to worry about constantly monitoring it. And then finally, I was struck holding a Saga device in my hand that this is an artifact. It's a physical bridge between the real world and the digital world. Through its wide array of sensors, you can, for example, tap to pay with Solana Pay. You can securely access your keys with your biometrics. You can even experience your NFTs mapped into the real world through AR and computer vision. All these capabilities are taken for granted on mobile devices by consumers in other parts of their digital lives. And through Saga and through SMS, we enable the existing Web3 on mobile, but perhaps more importantly, everything that users expect from mobile is now available on Web3. And to talk a little bit more about the why, I'd like to invite Josh Taylor, our head of design at Solana Labs, on stage.
Hi. Thank you, Steve. Hey, everybody, how's it going? All right. So let's talk a little bit about users, the people that are actually going to use these devices, right? So Steve was just talking a little bit about why Saga, why mobile at all, right? And there's a lot in there to be excited about. I know I'm incredibly excited because when you build for mobile, you get access to all these things like GPS and NFC and cameras and all these sensors and all these different inherent mobile characteristics that are really exciting to build for. But I think there's another why that I want to talk to you about briefly, and that's why are we doing this at all? And I think there's hopefully a relatively obvious answer, which is humans, people, right? It's for real people that are out in the world every single day. It's everyday users. You can call them normies if you want. It includes people in this room, but it is so much bigger. It's our Uber driver, it's our barber, it's our mom and our dad, all these people that are looking at what we're doing and trying to understand how they're going to be a part of it. I think about it as global human scale. I think a lot of us would agree that we see a world where crypto and blockchain is so much bigger than what it is today, right? We've grown a lot, actually, over the last couple of years, but we're still talking about small p's. We're talking about millions of users that are using crypto now, which is exciting. But we need to start thinking about a much larger scale. We need to start thinking about billions of users. And when we start talking about numbers and that scale, mobile is the only way that we're going to get there. Now, mobile deals with incredibly personal devices, right? These devices are something that we carry with us all the time. You know, Dave is the design lead at Awesome, and he said something to me recently that was both kind of obvious and a little bit profound. But our phones are perhaps the object that is most personal in our entire lives. We carry it with us all the time, and when we're not actually using it, it's with us in our pockets or in our purses or somewhere, you know, where we can reach it. It's never really outside of what we can touch because it's so pervasive and so much a part of every single thing that we do. I don't think many of us can imagine living without our phone, right? Imagine losing it right now. You can't even get back to your hotel. In fact, there's a lot of studies. This number is actually the lowest number I found, but we check our phones 96 times a day. That's every 10 minutes, right? So this is the opportunity that we have, right? The opportunity lies in the fact that mobile devices are with us always. They're with us every single where that we go. It helps us keep it entertained when we're at the dentist's office, captures moments of our kids, helps us connect with friends, make new friends, get work done, and so many more things. But I want to issue a bit of a challenge then. So if we kind of orient around the people across the world and think about 1 billion users, what is our challenge? And the challenge I have is for us to start building for those users, to think about those users in real space, in the real environment, right? Standing in line with distractions around them, anxieties and fears, and a bunch of other things swirling around them. When you're talking about mobile, you're not sitting at a desktop. You might be driving. Unfortunately, too many of us, not us, too many of you are driving and using your phones. There's so many other things we have to imagine of what they're doing. What problems do they have? What pains do they have that you can solve? And I think that the companies, the people in this room that recognize the real human problems that we can solve, those are going to be the ones that over the next coming years are going to be incredibly huge and successful companies. Because building for crypto on mobile gives you access to those personal moments. It gives you access to all of those things. So what would you build if you knew that the product that you build is going to be something that people put in their pocket and take with them everywhere they go? That's a fundamentally different mindset than many of us in the crypto space are in. Now, in addition to all those kind of the inherent mobile nature of mobile phones, we've been introducing Seed Vault onto Saga. And Seed Vault is one more really important tool for how crypto can go mainstream, right? We all know security of our keys is incredibly important. I know it's incredibly important to me, and I know to all of us. There's some anxiety around that. So it's important that we feel confident about the security of our keys, and we can take it with us wherever we want. But security isn't enough, right? You have to be able to use it, to do something with it. And so we've made it incredibly easy to use your keys on the go to interact with any dApp. We're going to talk a little bit more about that in just a minute. You're about to hear some specifics about what we're building, and I want to challenge you as you kind of go into the tech section. I want to challenge you about all of the things you're about to hear And how can you think about that through the lens of users and how we can apply this to the problems that are in our world? And if we are able to do that, I think we'll hit a huge opportunity. So here to talk a little bit more about Seed Vault and how it's built is Jonas from Awesome Products, and he'll be followed by Olivier, a software engineer from Solana Labs. Thank you.
Hi all. I'm Jonas. I'm a software engineer at Awesome Products, and we built the Saga phone. It's really great to be here with you in Lisbon. My colleagues and I have been working in conjunction with Solana Mobile and Steven, that you just met on stage, to build Seed Vault for the Saga phone. And Seed Vault is key custody, deeply integrated in the hardware and software stack of the Saga phone that is based on the 8475 chipset from Qualcomm. And Seed Vault is designed to keep your keys secure when they sit on your phone idle, and when you use them actively to sign transactions or derive public keys. Now, self-custody means users carry a lot of responsibility for their keys' safety. And at the same time, you want to use your keys easily and with confidence that they stay secret. Now, the solution to this is Seed Vault that is a top-to-bottom integration of wallets, a public API, a secure key store, and secure transaction signing. This means that you can just keep using the wallet that you use today with the added security of a system-managed key store. Today, Solflare and Phantom have completed their Seed Vault integration, and they are ready on the Saga phone from the start. Now, speaking of security, we take this very seriously, and we engaged multiple software auditors to review the code base that he wrote for Seed Vault to keep your keys secure. Now, next comes the little technical part here, or it gets more technical. So I want to share just some basic building blocks of Seed Vault. What you see here is an X-ray of the phone. And it starts with Qualcomm's flagship ARM SoC. It provides a trusted execution environment. And what that does is it allows us to run code in a secure operating environment based on ARM's trust zone technology. And we take advantage of this, for example, of its ability to exclusively claim the display hardware and the touch input of the phone to display a trusted UI. Now, what does that mean? It means that when you look at a seed phrase, or if you enter a password for Seed Vault to manage your wallet key, it is completely separate from the Android operating system. And that's really nice because you don't have to worry what's going on my phone on Android. Now, we also have a secure chip that's called a secure element, and that is tamper resistant and can resist all sorts of attacks to support the security. All of these building blocks look obviously fairly complicated, but really what comes out of this is a user experience that is easy to use. The keys that you want to use on your phone, you can create or import them and you set up the phone or anytime thereafter in settings. And wallet apps, they have to request that they want to use a key on your phone, then you can revoke that permission if you want to. And then then you can approve transactions with the tip of your finger, if you want to. Keys are managed in one place. This means when you remove them from Seed Vault, they're gone, and there is no copies of it left elsewhere in apps that you used. And now I hand it over to Olivier from Solana Labs, and when he comes on stage.
I'm Olivier, a member of the SMS team, and also one of the engineers that is working on the Solana dApp Store. We've been actually working super hard at designing the Solana dApp Store to be the best experience to deliver dApps to Saga. And so we wanted to share some details relevant to all the builders out there. I heard we were in a builders market, so you know. Of course, our mission is to be friendly and accessible to dApps so that they can deliver their Web3 derived capabilities to users. To achieve this mission, the dApp Store will actually be pioneering 3 policies. First, we previously announced it, but we wanted to emphasize it again. The dApp Store is free of fees and revenue shares. Nothing other than the ordinary Solana transaction fees. That's actually pretty awesome. I don't know if you realize. Second, we're also actually working on our policies for dApp Store content. We are super friendly, and we'll be open to all of the Web3 ecosystem apps, wallets, NFTs, DeFi, games, etc. To be transparent, this is something we're still working on and moving slowly on purpose. We want the users of the Solana dApp Store to be protected against, unwanted software, malicious apps, illegal content, etc. The same as any users of any application store. That's very important for the quality and safety of the dApp Store. We'll be publishing dApp Store policies well ahead in advance of opening submissions to the dApp Store. Third and last, in the Solana ecosystem, we've seen new models emerging for app and content delivery, and we're super excited about that. In the same way, the Solana dApp Store will be adopting dApp publishing on-chain. So we're actually in the process of defining right now a metadata format for what a dApp and its releases can be represented on-chain. Speaking of publishing, that's maybe the time to speak about something a lot of people have asked us. When will Solana Mobile accept submissions to the dApp Store? When? All right, no cliffhanger. We'll be opening submissions to the dApp Store January 2023. That's exciting. We'll provide tools and instruction well ahead of time, and the dApp Store will launch with Saga. We're not done yet. You have to build with me a little more. We also wanted to share some details on one more exciting technology. So first, what's the problem statement? On our desktops and laptops, we take for granted that we can click on a button and just connect our preferred wallet. That hasn't been true for mobile until now, until Mobile Wallet Adapter. Mobile Wallet Adapter, we built it from the ground up for mobile. What does it mean? Again, desktops and laptops, dApps are almost universally delivered through web browsers, right? That's something true. On mobile devices, the landscape is more complex and diverse. And so that's why Mobile Wallet Adapter meets dApps wherever they are, whether that be running on your Android browser, web browser, implemented natively in Kotlin or Java, or cross-platform frameworks like React Native, Flutter, Dart, etc. Mobile Wallet Adapter is actually for any device. It works on any Android device right now, not just Saga. That's something important. it's Android first. I know we've said a lot of Android words, but we've also given a Solana mobile grant to a great company in the ecosystem, FastAF, to develop mobile wallet adapter for iOS. We're also actually super excited about this opportunity, especially given the recent announcements. You know what I'm talking about. Best of all, it's actually ready now, so you can start building, and you'll be ready for the January submissions. You can check out the Solana mobile GitHub page and ask us questions on Discord. And you know what? Maybe you shouldn't actually take our word for it. To tell you about their experience integrating mobile wallet adapter and seed vault into their wallet, I'd like to welcome Vidor Gencel, founder of Solflare, to join us on stage. Thank you.
Ooh, this is a big room. I'm not used to big rooms. Hi, everyone. Really exciting to be here. I'm Vidor. I'm part of the team that has built the first wallet for Solana called Solflare. For reference, right now, more than 26% of all circulating Sol is taken through Solflare, and our apps help store billions of dollars of value for our users. Fun fact, exactly 1 year ago, on this date at Breakpoint, we released Solflare Mobile, the first of its kind dedicated Solana mobile experience. We've always set high goals for bringing the latest features for Solana to our users and constantly implementing new initiatives. And let me tell you, we've built mobile apps before, but this was nothing like it. Let me tell you why. In the past year, we've shipped 26 updates to the app, faced numerous issues with the app stores, around unclear or constantly changing policies, them wanting to take down our app just for the mention of NFTs or claiming hidden advertising when the user was about to connect a hardware wallet. At this point, the store approval process became a lottery, and it made our lives a lot harder. Our takeaway is that Google and Apple are slow to recognize change, but we don't need to be. Overall, the app stores force us to provide a suboptimal user experience in a mobile environment, and this needed to be changed. We were blown away when Emmett and Laver reached out and told us the vision of Saga, because we immediately recognized all the problems that Saga and SMS were set out to solve. Creating an open platform for wallets and apps, optimizing key storage and access with a seed vault, and improving the user experience of interacting with apps through the mobile wallet adapter. All of this technology perfectly resonated with us, and we thought it was a perfect fit for Solflare. And we jumped right into implementation. I need to do a quick shout out to the whole Solana mobile team and awesome products for providing such a good developer experience for us builders of implementing all of this. Fast forward to today, we're proud to announce that Solflare is the first wallet to fully support the seed vault and the mobile wallet adapter. Thank you. Now to the fun part. I could talk for days probably about this exceptional technology, but it's totally different, and there's no better way for you to experience this than to actually see it. I'm going to show a quick demo on how the technology works with Solflare. I'm going to play a video. I'm going to talk through it. So first of all, fresh Solflare installation. We're going to start initializing. We're going to approve access to the seed vault, approve with the touch of our fingerprint. Very easy, seamless. A few seconds later, we import all the wallets that it detects, and now wallet is ready, onboarded and ready to interact with apps. Let's do that. We open Chrome, a browser, we open a app, and we trigger a connection. It automatically detects that we're on mobile, and we just click connect. and the connection happens through mobile wallet adapter. Trigger Solflare, we approve the connection from there, and now we are ready to trigger transactions from a dApp. Let's swap some USDC to Sol. Type in 5, and then trigger a transaction. Solflare prompts, it does all the necessary security checks, simulations, lets us know that the output of the transaction is what we expect, and we just authorize the signature with the touch of our fingerprint again. And after a very quick Solana confirmation, we've swapped. I hope you see and understand what a seamless experience this is. That's for the demo. Thanks, everyone, and I'd like to welcome Emmett on stage.
Hey, everyone. My name is Emmett Hollier, and I lead business and operations for Solana Mobile, and I will be the last member of today's Solana Mobile Congo line. So what's next? As you can see, we've made a ton of progress. It was great seeing everybody in June at the announcement, but we've been pretty quiet since then. We've been heads down, getting a bunch of work done. So, hopefully, as you've heard today, that progress is becoming tangible. It's becoming very real. Our stack is ready. The phones are being built. They're ready to ship. And we've got a whole bunch of great partners building for us. You'll see here a few of the dApps that have already committed to being in the dApp store on day one when Saga launches. And in addition to those dApps, as Olivier mentioned, we'll be opening up for submissions in January of next year. In addition to the dApps that will be in the dApp store, we have a few partnerships that we're excited to announce today. First is Ledger. User choice is extremely important to our team, and we'll continue to build with that mentality, not only for Saga, but for the mobile stack as well. And so in addition to Seed Vault, we're happy to be working with the team at Ledger to provide even more security options for Solana mobile users. Next year, you'll be able to link your Seed Vault wallets to your Ledger Nano wallets to facilitate easier transactions between the two. This is going to give you the flexibility you need to determine which assets belong where without having to sacrifice convenience or security. We'll have more to share soon, but you can expect updates to the Ledger Live app wherever you've gotten it before, and it will also be available in the Solana dApp store. In addition to our partnership with Ledger, we're happy to announce that we'll be working with the team at Helium Mobile. Next year, Helium Mobile will be launching the first crypto carrier. By combining its people-powered network, partner 5G networks, and crypto economics, Helium Mobile subscribers will have access to a nationwide network at lower cost with opportunities to earn rewards. And we want Saga users to have that opportunity as well. So for any Saga shipped within the United States, we'll be including a Helium Mobile SIM card and a free month of access. Saga will be available on all major carriers, so it's not just Helium Mobile, but we think it's really important as we carry the future of decentralized mobility forward to enable Saga on their network. Be sure to check in to Amir's presentation tomorrow, where he'll talk not only about Helium Mobile, but the state of the Helium network. So a couple quick last things. I see some flashing red lights, so I'll keep this moving. Our team is extremely excited to be here in Lisbon with you all and want to make sure you have access to us. I know it was mentioned beforehand that we're like the team that's being sought out because we've got phones everywhere. So where can you find us? We'll be at the laboratory. We have a booth, and we have phones. But more importantly than phones, we have team members. We have a team that is so excited. Not just our team, the awesome team and partners will be over there. Come, get a hands-on, see what the future of mobile is going to look like, and tell us what you think. In addition to the phones that we'll have at our booth, there will be phones sort of scattered throughout Lisbon this weekend, hopefully somewhat safely. But you should see a number of them at partner booths and other keynote presentations because, frankly, we've got a whole bunch of teams already building. And so the progress that we've seen is really amazing. And we want to make sure that you all see that progress as well. Speaking of which, when most of you registered, you should have received a cutout of a Saga It's not a Saga. It doesn't work. You can't plug it in or turn it on. But what we do want to see from you is what you're hoping to see. I know I mentioned a handful of apps that will be available in the dApp Store when we launch. But go talk to builders. Go tell them what you want to see. If you're a builder, listen. We can't wait to see what's going to come to the dApp Store. And so we wanted to use this as an opportunity for people to find icons, find apps that they care about, place them on their home screen, and share them. If you fill in your home screen and post it to Twitter, you'll be entered for a chance to win a free Saga, so stay tuned. And finally, our Saga Pass happy hour. For those of you that missed it, last week we minted Saga Pass, which is an NFT to reward early adopters of Saga. If you missed the mint, we'll have additional mint opportunities in the future. But if you minted and you got a ticket to tomorrow's event, we can't wait to see you. It's going to be the Solana mobile team, the awesome team, builders on the mobile stack, and a whole bunch of other fun stuff. So please, if you've got your ticket, show up, bring your ticket with you. We'll check you in. If you minted the pass and you didn't get a ticket, keep an eye on our Twitter. We're working to get more tickets available to folks, so we'll have more to share soon. Stay tuned. OK, to wrap things up, thank you. I know we haven't said much since June, but we really have been heads down getting a whole bunch of work done, and it's amazing to see the progress. Our team was at the Hacker House all week, putting phones in front of builders, putting phones in front of users, and the feedback has been tremendous. Head to our website, solanamobile.com, to get the latest and greatest from the team on Saga and the mobile stack. If you're a builder, go grab the SDK. Submissions will be open in January, and we can't wait to see everything that's coming to the store. And for everybody in the room, builders and non-builders, go pre-order your Saga. We've made so much progress. I've been using mine as a daily phone for months. A whole bunch of our team members have. We're so excited to put it in your hands, so be sure to pre-order today. Thank you.
One of the things I work on at the Solana Foundation is the energy use report. I'm really proud of Solana being one of the cleanest blockchains on Earth. Super awesome to be a part of supporting that community. And sometime around April this year, this guy DMs me on Twitter. He says, hey, I'm really interested in getting a bunch of people from the climate community and the blockchain community together to go to Greenland. And I was like, what the hell are you talking about? Like, that is a crazy idea. But I get on a Zoom with him, and I am absolutely blown away. And I'm really proud that we're bringing our next speaker, Dave Ford, here with us to Breakpoint to talk about an issue that is important not just for the Solana community, but for our entire Earth. He's one of the most inspiring leaders I know, and we talk about working with the blockchain community to change the world. He walks the walk. So I am so excited for everyone to be able to hear from him and learn exactly what he's doing. So please, everybody, put your hands together to learn from Dave Ford.
Hello, everyone. How are you today? My name is Dave Ford, and I run an organization that is dedicated to bringing disparate parties together to help them learn about the environment. We're an environmental intelligence agency, and we got our start working on ocean plastics with an organization called the Ocean Plastic Leadership Network, and we started by taking 165 executives into the middle of the Atlantic garbage patch, which is 500 miles off the coast of Bermuda. It's one of the 5 gyres in the world where a high density of plastic accumulates in the ocean. And we had 165 leaders. We had activists. We had big consumer packaged goods companies like Coca-Cola and Procter & Gamble. We had petrochemical companies like Dow Chemical. We had the World Bank, the World Wildlife Fund, and activists like Greenpeace. These organizations don't like each other, many of them, and don't get together, let alone being stuck on a ship. We were 2 miles deep pulling handfuls of plastic waste out of this patch in the Bermuda Triangle, and it was an incredibly powerful moment. And 3.5 years later, a $15 million reverse logistics hub in Ghana and Tribal Lands USA was born. A ton of smaller initiatives are being housed by different NGOs, and the Ocean Plastic Leadership Network was born. Today, we're 150 organizations. We are one of the biggest conveners outside the United Nations on the Global Plastics Treaty. We're working with 7 governments, including the UK and the US, and it's been an incredibly powerful journey. And I'm also Solly the Ice Ape in the Degenerate Ape Academy. And I very randomly, spontaneously, last August, found out about Solana NFTs, and I bought a Degenerate Ape, and I had no idea just how powerful that decision would be. Now, I'm in the environment, so one of the things that I've been trying to figure out is this crypto and climate challenge, crisis, right? Like, so I work day to day. So anonymously for just about a year, I was writing super threads and doing everything I could do to educate myself. And then, but little did I know how powerful this community that I joined and how impactful it would be. I was connected to the head of the Degenerate Trash Pandas, a guy by the name of Pitt, who may or may not be in this room right now. And I asked him to fund this crazy art project, this huge installation by this artist named Ben Von Wong. This is actually a 40-foot high plastic tap that would probably be about as high as these lights up here. And these are 6-foot cutouts of the Degenerate Trash Pandas. And this installation, I called Pitt, he said, I'll write you a check, would not have been possible without the Solana NFT community. And it became like the iconic image for the Global Plastics Treaty. 180 publications picked it up. It was on the front page of the Washington Post. And we raised $100,000 for a slum in Kenya that helped us put this together in this organization called the Human Needs Project in 19 days. It was beyond my wildest imagination just how powerful this could be. So enter climate change and the confusion. It is an incredibly confusing place. You have the UN Paris Agreement that has put pressure on governments, that now is putting pressure on industry. You have supernatural organizations like the World Bank and the IMF and the UN, civil society and NGOs. You have the companies and industries that are emitting and trying to figure out how to curb their emissions in food and ag and energy and CPG and transportation. And then you have blockchain that has incredibly practical applications, yet it's mired in all this confusion. Probably the lowest hanging fruit today is the carbon offset market and bringing verification and trust to that place, and then supply chain tracking to help these companies figure out what their carbon imprint is. And I'm a firm believer standing here that ESG one day is going to live on blockchain. Like, I believe in it with the fiber of my being, that the company reporting metrics, all of it, are going to live on the chain and are going to be open and transparent. And this greenwash, smoke and mirrors thing that's happening today is going to change because of blockchain. But I'm also here to say that we're nowhere close to that from a general collaborative fluency. The Web 2 world is not there yet. I was on stage a month ago in California in front of 40 of the biggest companies in the world, their top R&D people. They had a dotted line into the CEO. These are brilliant, brilliant people. And I was talking about the chaos and confusion at the intersection of blockchain and climate. And I asked the room, I said, how many of you, I mean, this is the automotive industry, the mobile industry, the energy industry, like big Fortune 100s, Fortune 500s. And I said, how many people in the room here think that crypto is bad for the environment? And 100% of the people raised their hand. And then I said, how many people in the room here know the difference between proof of work and proof of stake? And it was a donut. Not a single person raised their hand. And so I went into the differences in the computing power that it takes to mine Bitcoin, and the fact that, yes, Bitcoin miners are plugging into decommissioned coal plants and bringing them back online, and that's a huge problem. That is an environmental catastrophe right there. I also mentioned some of the mitigation technologies that are coming online where you can plug a Bitcoin miner into a landfill and mitigate methane, or a pig farm and mitigate the waste that has to be burned, or a flare gas in the middle of an oil field. So it's not so cut and dry there. But when I talked about proof of stake and talked about what happens in a network model like Solana, where one Solana transaction equals 2.1 Google transactions. The room lit up. They didn't realize just how much of the blockchains out there work just like Web 2. The other problem is it's like the Game of Thrones when these companies are approached by L1s. Each of these specific, we've been winner take all for so long, and how do we bring these warring factions, these tribes that are fighting each other together? And our answer was what Amir talked about earlier, was bringing some of the most powerful leaders to the Greenland ice sheet. And that's exactly what we did this summer. We had Solana and Ripple and Regen Network and some of the top Bitcoin mining pools and staking pools, Greenpeace, who's very involved in this issue. And we had the GBBC, we had a powerful group, and it was not all fun and games. This is us standing in front of the Ilulissat Glacier, which just this year in Greenland was one of the biggest melts you can imagine. And we went hard and deep and had really tough animated conversations, and an NGO was born, which is called the Blockchain Climate Leadership Network, or BXC. And I'm so proud to announce this today. We came up and aligned on principles while we were in Greenland. A month later, with our partners at BecoWG, we explored interoperability and how chains can work together, specifically on carbon markets. 5 more L1s joined. This is happening. And our mission is to bridge the most powerful organizations in Web 2 and Web 3, so we could just move faster, because we're not moving fast enough. We're inviting the biggest L1s and foundations and investors, the biggest companies in the world in Web 2, with the banks and the brands, and the most powerful NGOs and academia and supernatural organizations. I'm so proud to say today that Solana, via the Solana Foundation, is our first founding member. We have a second top 10 L1 that just joined that I hope you'll be able to announce soon. We have a networked commons that's going to span across Web 2 and Web 3, and we're going to be working on real projects to bridge and get things faster, socially, technically, and structurally, all over the world. I'm going to Egypt at COP next week, and we're going to be along this journey for the course of the next year. We're going to be working incredibly hard to make a difference, to educate and build this collaborative fluency so that we can move faster. We're going to be going back to Greenland. We're going to be going from Iceland to Greenland, inviting all those organizations in the world. This ship is an expedition voyage. It is not fancy. We're quadruple offsetting our carbon, but we're going to do the exact same formula that we did in the middle of the Atlantic Gyre next July. I want to introduce this piece of art from Scum, he's in the audience somewhere, one of the most prolific artists, one of the most powerful artists in the Solana ecosystem. He was with us in Greenland. If you see the blockchain in the middle, that is what we are all about. We're about enabling this technology to drive us forth fast on climate. And in closing, I just want to thank Solana and thank the Solana Foundation. I had no idea that by getting involved in an NFT community that I'd be standing here before you today, really knowing in my heart that we, this community, can make a huge difference in the world with respect to climate change, and that blockchain is central and is there. So I just want to thank the Degeneraverse. I want to thank Solana Foundation. And if any of you think you can help, we've raised the first $1 million out of our $7 million. Please reach out to me at Dave Ford on Twitter or at Solly the Ice Ape. And I just stand before you humbly. I'm incredibly energized and grateful and excited. And there's just absolutely no time to waste. Thank you.
How about Dave Ford? How inspiring. In the Web3 community, we talk a lot about respect for builders. And what I learned from Dave is you don't have to be a dev to be a builder. If you have a vision, you want to change something, you make it happen, and you can be anyone in the world. You bring people together, and he taught me that. So leading into our next talk, there's a very famous guy named Jack who roams the streets of San Francisco. And you might be thinking, Jack, that's the guy who runs Twitter, right? I said, no, there's a new Jack in town, and he's the Jack of crypto. And He is the founder of Magic Eden, and I learned something very interesting backstage, which is Magic Eden started 13 months ago. This is their 13-month anniversary. And in just over a year, they've grown into this massive platform for creators in NFTs. And so Jack is going to come on today, tell us the journey of Magic Eden, and he's going to address a topic that a lot of people are talking a lot about, which is creator royalties. So I'm so excited for him to come here today, address some of these topics, and inspire all the builders in here of what can be done in 13 months. So everyone, please put your hands together. Let's welcome Jack to the stage.
Hey, good morning, everyone. I'm Jack, co-founder and CEO of Magic Eden. Thanks so much for having me and giving me the opportunity to share a little bit about the Magic Eden story. Before I dive into the nitty-gritty of the speech, I was thinking, yeah, what should I talk about? It's been a pretty, if you follow the history of Magic Eden, it's been a pretty quiet and uneventful year for us. I think that's been a bit cheeky. I think the truth is it's been quite a year. It's been quite a wild ride for Magic Eden. So for us, it's all kind of coming in full circle in a way. So this time last year, just before this time last year, we just started Magic Eden. And when we came to Lisbon in 2021, we were a 10-person team. And it was the first time a lot of the members on our team have even met each other in the first place. So a lot of us actually met on crypto Twitter. We haven't met each other face to face, and this was the period and the time and place where we actually met each other. And as our team got back together for this time, 2022 in Lisbon, we were really reflecting, what a long way we've come for Magic Eden. So a lot of things have happened in the past 12 months. Well, number one, I think we're very privileged and very thankful to have become the leading NFT marketplace on Solana. And that did take a lot of hard work and a lot of grinding. And secondly, we arrived in that position by launching a lot of innovative products that I think we were the first in the NFT industry to launch. So for example, we were the first marketplace to have a launchpad. We were the first marketplace to have native integrations of our marketplace into wallets like Phantom and Exodus. We had launched 300 collections and partnered with over 300 creators around many different aspects of their business, including building in-brand, white-label marketplaces. And we also started this new gaming business where we help games get discovery through our Eden Games portal. And a lot of those industry firsts, I think, have helped us arrive at this position of success. And at the same time, also in the depth of the bear market, in September, we were also very privileged and thankful to have our user engagement hit all-time highs. So in September, that's the chart in the middle, our transaction count actually hit 3 million. So that's a in-month view of what happened. And that was despite all of the macro uncertainty that was happening at the time. So users were using Magic Eden more users were using it, and we were very privileged. But of course, if you follow the history of Magic Eden, we've been no strangers to controversy as well. And recently, this optional royalty trend has definitely taken a massive hit into our business, and we also had to painfully adapt and pivot as well. And I actually wanted to use a little bit of the opportunity today to share our reflections on this whole thing, and also share our view of how what Magic Eden is doing to address this issue, and how we can all address it together as a Solana community and Solana ecosystem. So to level set this thing, I think first of all, our view is that this optional royalty trend in all ecosystems where royalties are not being enforced at the protocol level, the trend that played out in Solana is actually going to play out similarly. And as you can see on this chart here, this is the Ethereum NFT ecosystem, the largest NFT ecosystem today, several orders of magnitude larger than Sol. And exactly the same trend that we had experienced is also happening, right? The vast majority of volume on Ethereum today is being traded on optional royalty marketplaces. And in that sense, I would say that actually sounds pretty bearish in some ways. But actually, I wouldn't say that, right? I think with great change comes great opportunity. And this moment in time, to me, almost feels like the moment in time when we started Magic Eden. And when we started Magic Eden, there was no candy machine. There was no like standardized minting smart contract. The token metadata program was very, very new. And we, at that time, this time last year, like Q3 or so, we really felt this brooding sense of energy, of optimism, of people thinking there is going to be great changes in the Sol ecosystem and how we can capture that together. And I would say that I would share that sentiment for what it is today at this current moment in time. Because to level set this issue, I think every ecosystem is going to face what we had to face on Sol. But in Sol, we are at the forefront, at the cutting edge of finding solutions to this problem. And Magic Eden is committed to also building and investing to help find a solution to this problem. And as I walk around in Solana Breakpoint and seeing all these talented projects, talented founders, it really hits home that like Sol is a community of the strongest builders. And only by building together can we all come and find a solution to this issue. So to share the Magic Eden house view on this situation, what are we doing about this? And how do we see the future of creator monetization in NFTs playing out? So for us, it's really around 3 themes. The first theme is around new creator business models. And what that really means is creators need a sustained revenue model. And royalties historically was one of those, but there are many, many new innovations that could be made available to them. And Magic Eden is building products in the coming days, weeks, and months to launch these and to showcase what are the boundaries of possibilities that can be done here. So some examples here would be, we are building a next generation launchpad that will help creators hold some part of their supply so they can get the upside of their work and their creations. Also to mix this with new DeFi use cases like staking, AMM, and so on, that have addressed these issues pretty effectively. The second theme is really around new asset classes. So today, our understanding of NFTs is really about this property, this primitive, but it gives absolute rights to the holder, and that's the beauty of it. It's true. The holder has absolute rights to do whatever they want, trade it, transfer it, list it, everywhere, and that is what's amazing about it. But unfortunately, just given the way that protocols are being designed today, there is no way to enforce royalties with the current design. Over the past few weeks and months, we've spoken to dozens, if not 100 creators amongst many, many industries, whether it's PFPs, fine art, music, ticketing, sports. And we spoke to many of those creators, and we found their needs actually are very, very divergent. Some folks really want sovereign ownership. Some folks really want royalty enforcement or new business models. And what we arrived at is there needs to be, in partnership with other folks in the ecosystem like Cardinal and so on, there is a real opportunity to give rise to a new asset class. And this asset class will have special properties, but it will also have special trade-offs. So it could enforce royalties at a hard technological level. But royalty enforcement by necessity means that the creator has some level of control to monitor whether they are being paid and rewarded fairly for their work. And it does not, in some sense, it does not look like the NFTs as we know today. But for us, when we talk to these creators have said, and their holders have said, hey, it's okay. We are willing to accept some of these trade-offs in order to ensure that we can bring our business model to life. And in this way, I would not call them NFTs as we understand it, but potentially a new asset class, a new special class on top of this. So Magic Eden, what we want to do is also invest in further innovations like this and showcase what could be done. And next week, we are actually doing the first launch of an asset like this with Cardinal Labs, one of the ecosystem partners who is building this technology, but with also Brave Browser, one of our deep and long-standing partners who is happy to be a launch partner here. And we want to pave the way and show the ecosystem some new innovations and some new ways about thinking about this issue. The last theme for us is new ways to support creators beyond economics and business. Whether it's in Web 1, Web 2, Web 3, or the analog world, or even in Web 3, different ecosystem, Ethereum, Sol, and so on, creators actually fundamentally, many of the things that they want is the same. They want to build communities They want to find ways to engage and build relationships with their communities, and they want to stand out so they have a chance to bring their vision to life. And for Magic Eden, we understand that we are uniquely positioned to build tools that help creators in that sense. And in that way, we still want to build those tools and build those products to help creators bring their dreams to life as well. So those are the three themes. And we understand very much well that today is a changing landscape. And Magic Eden by far does not have all of the answers. And we are also committing to investing and helping other projects in the ecosystem also bring their innovations to life. And in that sense, we're also starting a hackathon series where in total we'll put $1 million on the line to invest in projects who are going to build new creator monetization tools and technologies. So all in all, where does that leave us? I think in some sense, NFTs, the beauty of NFTs is this new primitive and this new perfect tool to help us understand what self-expression, digital ownership on the internet could be. We are still more bullish than ever that this use case will be 100x, 1,000x what it is today. And today there is this period of change, but there is also a great period of opportunity. But at the same time, every day we see more and more creators, ecosystem partners who want to work with Magic Eden to help bring this new future to life and build this new future together. And that is the sense of momentum and sense of optimism that's giving us at Magic Eden that in Sol and the NFT community, the best is still yet to come. So we couldn't be more excited to share some of our innovations in the weeks and months to come with the Sol community. And we also invite the Sol community to come and talk to us about how we can innovate together. So thank you very much.
I am so excited for this next session. These guys were playing dodgeball backstage. So you know it's going to be dynamic. Oh, God. You know, there's very few people in the world who can only go by their first name. Madonna, Oprah, Armani. That's right, Armani. So we're going to give these guys a very warm welcome. So everybody, chant with me now. Wow, 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 woo! Please welcome the wow guys, the backpack guys.
Wow, this is insane. Hey everyone. Yep, my name's Armani. One of the creators of Anchor, one of the creators of Backpack, one of the creators of XNFTs. And I thought today we would do this talk a little different. We'll talk about Backpack, we'll talk about XNFTs, but I wanted to rewind the clock back a bit to the early days of Solana, about two years ago. And I wanted to kind of go back to one of my favorite applications on the network. One of the first Solana wallets, Solid.io. So yeah, we have Solid here. Why am I talking about Solid? So Solid is a really interesting piece of technology in the history of Solana. And the reason why it's interesting is that it was one of the first applications that served as kind of a parent for the genesis for a lot of the protocols and a lot of the applications that we've seen over the past couple years. Most notably, the first kind of thing that came out of Solid was that a team came and they wanted to not build a wallet, but they wanted to build an order book. Right? This was the first kind of dream for Solana, the network, and in order to have order books, you needed a wallet, and you needed, a working key management system. And so kind of, the folks, or the team that built Solid kind of built this kind of open source piece of infrastructure, and kind of built Project Serum, and then out of that came like a lot of DeFi on Solana. So that, this is where Mango Markets kind of derived from, Zeta, 0.1, Radium, Atrix, and kind of the list goes on for DeFi as we have today. But it wasn't just DeFi on Solana that derived from Solid. A lot of applications also derived from Solid, and not just protocols. And like the reason for this was that, well, it was an open source repo in a time when developer documentation and developer relations were scarce, if there was any at all. Back in like kind of the early days, there was like Michael Vines and like the Solana like core team in a Discord that would just like answer questions for folks, and then people would have to like pattern match against like the scarce resources that existed to like figure out how to like use the blockchain, right? But Solid was like a nice like piece of code that anybody can come and like take a look at, read through, learn how to interact with the network, learn how to serialize and deserialize token accounts, and do all the nitty-gritty details that like made Solana development really hard. But having that reference implementation for application developers really allowed us to kind of bootstrap the snowball to kind of build the developer ecosystem as it exists today. And we had a lot of wallets that kind of like derived from Solid as well. Maybe the most notable one being Phantom. And what was so amazing about this was that the Phantom team came along. They didn't really know much about Solana at all, and they didn't have to reinvent the wheel. They didn't have to reinvent like token serialization or private key management. They had like a great reference where they can use to build their own wallet and focus on innovating where it mattered, right? And then they built this like beautiful application that kind of like led the way for like great UI and UX for applications on the network without kind of having to like redo what had already been done. And so Solid is like really interesting kind of for this reason. And if you take a look at like a lot of the features on Solid, really what you see is the story of the evolution of Solana in the early days. And if we just like take a look at this like top bar here, it's like pretty interesting. So like the first thing we see is like this like popular tokens list. And at first glance, this is really simple and maybe not that interesting. But what this was it was the first static JSON file that applications used to provide metadata to provide information about tokens on the network, right? Anything from a token address to a ticker symbol to the name to the image of what the logo of that token looked like. And this would later evolve into like the package that everybody used, which was the Solana token registry, which is now deprecated, and maybe we all hate it because there's thousands of tokens in there. But this was before the days of the token metadata program, and this kind of allowed us to like kind of bootstrap a lot of the applications to provide like important information to users. Kind of the next tab here is maybe one of the more underappreciated features of Solid, which is to say that Solid was actually the first bridge, or the first application connecting a bridge to Solana. And this was super important in the early days, right? This is where a lot of the liquidity from Ethereum and for Bitcoin bridged over into the network to bootstrap DeFi on Solana. And this was super important. And kind of the list of these features goes on and on. This next one is like pretty interesting and pretty subtle. And if you've used this, then you're kind of like an OG on Solana, this migrate tokens button. So if you remember, kind of in the early days, the token program did not have associated token accounts. And it's okay, what does this mean, right? So you can imagine, the way Solid used to look, the way all the wallets worked, was that not only would you see this, sol address, but you would actually see a token address for each token account in the UI. So if you had USDC, that's a token address. If you have Star Atlas, that's a token address. Mango, token address. Sol, that's a token address. So you had like N addresses for N tokens in your wallet, which made for this horribly like frustrating UI UX, where if you wanted to send a token from me to you, you would not only have to get the Sol address, but you would have to figure out, okay, which token are you getting, and get the, say, USDC, and send the token address associated with that token. And not only that address, but you had to pick between like one of like many. You might have one USDC account, you might have two, you might have 10. And it was this horrible kind of user experience. But these problems were eventually solved, right? We eventually got the associated token program. We now have this like nice simple UI where we have a single address in wallets, and I just say, here's my address, send me whatever token, and it just magically gets to me. And Solid was like there for that whole kind of, that whole transition and that whole migration, right? So this migrate tokens feature was created to migrate users from the old world and bring them into the new world. And it was painful, it was frustrating, but we got through it as a network, and we have kind of what we have today. We keep going down this list, right? Swapping tokens. You might forget, Solid was the first wallet that had an embedded swapper, right? And this was like a nice open source widget that anybody can take. The Soulflare team took it, embedded it into their wallet, and then boom, they had native token swapping inside of the wallet. And of course, they eventually made it their own. They enhanced the UI. They integrated Jupyter. But this kind of started that kind of momentum. Maybe the last interesting feature here is the Solana name service. I don't have any domains here, but the Solana name service was something that the Bonfida team built. Obviously an important primitive for the network, but they didn't have a distribution channel, right? And so they just simply opened a PR to the repo, got Solana names into the wallets, and then bam, you have an important protocol for the ecosystem, and you have a way to manage it right inside of the wallet. And so, the history of Solid really is the history of the evolution of getting the snowball rolling for the Solana application and developer ecosystem. And so, fast forwarding today and looking at the tech that we're working on with Backpack and XNFTs, a lot of these same themes are coming up. And to maybe talk about the motivations for building this stuff, we actually didn't want to build Backpack. We didn't want to build a wallet. What we really cared about was building a new protocol. We cared about XNFTs. We cared about full stack decentralized applications that anybody can run, right? But there wasn't really any way to build XNFTs because there wasn't a production grade open source wallet, right? Solid was never meant to be a wallet business. It was really just a developer tool to build other things like the order book, right? So, and we had no other options, right? There is everybody was closed source. There was no shared piece of infrastructure where we can innovate on protocols, innovate on product, and push the network forward, right? So this is what started kind of the journey to building Backpack as a open source shared piece of infrastructure for the Solana ecosystem to work on together and to build the next generation of protocols and products to kind of push the ecosystem forward. And, if we go take a look at the repository, we can take a look at how this is already developing and playing out for the network. So if we go take a look at the contributors, and we find our good friend Jordan Sexton, take a look at his commits. And this one is really a good example of what I'm really excited about for Backpack, which is to say we now have the 1.0 release of the wallet standard out, not just for Solana, but it's actually a protocol agnostic wallet standard. And Jordan messaged me maybe a couple months ago, and he was complaining, and he was saying hey Armani, wallet APIs on Solana are a mess. Everybody's doing different things. There's no standardization. There's no high quality interface for teams to implement. And we need to be less reactive, and we need to be proactive about standardizing APIs for this super important piece of the stack. And so Jordan kind of went on this journey to build this new standard, and which is what we have today. But a small but maybe important part of him building this was having a playground to implement the APIs, iterate on the design, get feedback from people in a live production-grade wallet without him having to reinvent the wheel, right? Without him having to reinvent a Chrome extension, reinvent injected providers, reinvent key management. And so I like to think that Backpack had a small but important part in that development process, being this shared piece of infrastructure so that he can focus on what mattered, which is new protocols to push the ecosystem forward. And I think that's a pretty cool example. One of the next ones that I'm super excited about is this PR that's open right now from John Wong, which is compressed NFTs. And compressed NFTs, I won't go into the details of them. It's the super exciting kind of improvement on the existing NFT standard, developed in collaboration with Metaplex and Solana to reduce the cost by several orders of magnitude for NFTs. And John and Noah, came to me and said, hey, Armani, we have this protocol, but we need a wallet. We need somebody to display this protocol to show how awesome it is, how useful it is. this, like, we don't have anybody to work with, like, can we add this to Backpack? And my response was like, yes, this is the entire point of Backpack, was so that we can iterate on these like new innovations as an ecosystem and push everything forward. So now we have this kind of awesome PR. We'll have compressed NFTs in Backpack really soon, and we just continue to like innovate on this like open source like shared primitive. And maybe the last kind of interesting example, especially in the context of Jack's talk, is royalties, right? This is like a super important conversation happening, not just on Solana, but on every blockchain. And kind of on this topic, the Hyperspace team, they're an NFT aggregator on Solana. They DM'd me on Telegram, last week, and they said, hey Armani, like Cardinal Labs built this new royalty enforcing NFT protocol. It's not perfect, but it's pretty darn good. We just integrated it into Hyperspace. How do we get this into Backpack? And they sent me some code. I took a look at the code, looked straightforward. I said, all right, great, let's get this in within 24 hours because this is that important. And we merged it in, and now that's in kind of the repository. And now we have a version of royalty enforced NFTs on Backpack. And so I'll stop rambling. Yeah. Cool, right? So, I'll stop rambling a bit, but the story here really is positioning Backpack, positioning XNFTs, positioning this repository as, a piece of shared infrastructure that's accessible to all developers in the ecosystem. If you want to build new protocols, if you want to build new applications, new products, you have access to a wallet so that you can focus on what matters, focus on the new primitives that you want to build and not reinvent the wheel for what I would consider one of the most important pieces of the Web3 stack. And so that's a bit about an introduction for the context of this project. Now I want to bring Tristan Yver, my co-founder, on stage to show you a bit about Backpack, to show you a bit about XNFTs, and show you a bit about what we have today. So Tristan, want to come on stage?
Give me a hat. Come here. Bring it in. Hello, everyone. Wow. There's a lot of people here. Hi, it's a pleasure to see all of you. I'll throw this over here. So my name is Tristan. I've been working in the Solana ecosystem for about 2.5 years now. I've helped incubate many projects of which you may have heard of, such as Serum, Phantom, Mango, Zeta, DeFi Land, Aurora, and a lot of others. So I've had the pleasure of working with some of the most talented developers in our space. And I can say we have a very unique space of powerful developers, of kind human beings. Shout out to Anatoly, one of the nicest people I've ever met in my life, and also a brilliant engineer. Without further ado, I'm going to show you a little bit about what Armani was talking about. But before that, I want to say one point. So he was talking about all these references in which you could do a PR to the Backpack repo, and you could get your protocol, your idea merged into Backpack. But if you don't even want to do that, if you don't even want to interface with us, you don't have to. You can just come and build an XNFT, publish it to xnft.gg, and then people can use your protocol, your standard, your idea, whatever it is, your game, directly within Backpack without even having to interface with us in the first place. So xnft.gg is our app store. It is a library of all the XNFTs that have been published by a bunch of wonderful teams in the ecosystem, as you can see here. And the way this works is that if you have Backpack, which is this is your balances, this is kind of what you're used to. One update that's coming out pretty soon that we're excited for is another button right here, which is us integrating with Stripe as one of their on-ramp partners, hopefully making it easier for people to enter the space, to bring some fiat into their wallet. So thank you to the Stripe team, which I think are here as well. This is all typical. This is what you're used to. Nothing very innovative here. But if you go to this tab right here, now you see applications. I don't think you've ever really seen that within a wallet in Web3, have you? It's what we're used to on our phones. It's what we're used to on our Macs. It's this world of apps, this world that took the whole World Wide Web, this disparate segment of places in which you couldn't navigate unless you had context into one enclosure through which people who may have not been familiar or had that context could dive into the things that they really wanted to do and experience. So what we're trying to do is something very similar to that, completely open source, completely decentralized, completely on Solana and many other blockchains. And let's show you some XNFTs, baby. So this first one, I always show it. The TXO team has done an incredible job with their XNFT. Let's go, TXO. We love you guys. TXO is an NFT marketplace, an aggregator, and they've built all of this with the React XNFT components themselves. So essentially, this is going to be auto-updating as we do changes to the wallet, to the formats. It'll be standardized across the other XNFTs that use the React XNFT framework. They have their marketplace, but what they've been receiving a lot of attention for recently is their analytics page. And hopefully the Wi-Fi will load this. Let's give it a second. No? Well, anyway, if you get a chance, we'll give you a backpack invite code. We'll show you their analytics page, which is beautiful, all built with the native React XNFT components. Oh, there it was loading. But I'm going to show you a few other XNFTs, because I don't have that much time. So Releap is a music NFT marketplace, but it's not just a marketplace. So you can come down here, and if you wanted, I'm not logged in, but you could buy this NFT. But not only can you buy the NFT, you can also listen to the NFT. So one of the issues with music NFTs is people are like, oh, what am I going to do with a bunch of NFTs in my wallet that I can't listen to, or I can't use, or I can't do anything with? That's lame, that's boring. But what if you actually could have your music NFTs inside your backpack? You could listen to them while you're doing whatever that it is that you're doing in your day-to-day life. And now all of a sudden, we've actually created a mechanism that you can stream music NFTs. So Releap, thank you guys, great job. We really like what you guys have been building. There were some breaking changes to the React XNFT framework recently, which allowed us to add Tailwind and CSS components. This one hasn't been updated, so it's a little bit broken, but I still want to show it to you because it actually is one of the reasons that we built this. And what it unlocks is the ability to see assets which you are using within protocols on-chain. But usually when you go to an NFT staking site or you go to a borrow lending protocol and you provide liquidity, you stake your NFTs, they disappear from your wallet. And that's that. And you can't see them anymore. And if you want to show your friend your NFTs, you have to go to the website, you have to connect your wallet, you have to go to the tab, you have to show them. But now with Backpack, you can have these different protocols that you're using in the same place so that if I wanted to show my friends my DGods, I wouldn't have to go through that whole process. I could just open the DGod staking XNFT and then see, look, these guys are staked right here. They're earning dust, but they're still in my wallet. If I wanted to, I could claim the dust in here and whatnot. It's another example. Who else should I show you guys? How about, I'm going to show you guys Flappy Bird. Don't worry. But what about prices? So 95% of the times that I open FTX to go look at the prices. I don't know about you guys. I'm a crypto DJ, and I'm always curious what's happening with the market. So I'll open up this prices thing on FTX. And we thought, wait, why wouldn't you just be able to check all the prices that you're doing within Backpack itself? And the really interesting thing about this one specifically is that the other ones that I've shown you are back-ended by Solana contracts, right? They're things that are on-chain, that are the back-end infrastructure for this. This is essentially back-ended by CoinGecko's API, which is really interesting, right? Because you can back-end this with things that are on-chain. You can back-end it with protocols and whatnot. But you can also back-end it with Web 2 infrastructure. You can go to CoinGecko, which is a wonderful price-checking site. You can subscribe to their APIs. And you can build an XNFT that allows people to check the prices of the different assets that they care about. Another thing that we did, and this also relates to the music NFTs that I was showing earlier, is this little thing that we were very surprised no one had done before, which was essentially to make it so that you could pop out the wallet, Flappy Bird. And the nice thing about being able to pop it out is that, if you want to listen to your music, you can behind the things that you're doing usually. But if you're playing a game, if you're doing something, and we haven't done the components resizable yet, but essentially the functionality that this allows is to bring this out. You can make it larger, you can make it full screen, you can play a game. We were running the Rory game, which is a really cool game, through an iframe, through Backpack. And it really just kind of opens up the design space for projects to be able to get what they're building into the hands of the different people in the ecosystem. We have a booth right out there. If anybody wants an invite code, which also gives you a whitelist to the NFT project that we're doing, which sadly I won't be able to show you, but we're doing the whole whitelist flow through Backpack, we're actually changing the idea of collectibles to XNFT collectibles, which mean that instead of having to go through a verification process to get into a certain Discord channel and you're using this combination of Web3, Web2 infrastructure, what you can do now is if you own this NFT, you'll be able to click through it into whatever community hub that we build. And with these primitives, we'll be able to offer other NFT communities the opportunity to have holders chats, to have Twitter spaces, to have things that are like the social media that we use today, only for the holders of that NFT, and you click through your NFT into that world. So essentially what we're trying to do is we're trying to make it so that these things that have been static for too long become dynamic, become living, become breathing, and we can really share the magic that NFTs should be for the world. So without further ado, thank you so much for everybody. Sorry for going over time, and I appreciate you all for being here. Bye, take care.
So, there's a lot of stereotypes about crypto, one of which is that we're not good at fashion. And I think we all saw Tristan's shirt. It was awesome. The other is that, we spend all our time hunched over on our computers. We never get out. We're in dark, dark rooms. And I'm so excited for this next panel because these folks hedge against all those stereotypes. We have a huge rock climber. We have Austin joining instead of Anatoly today. We have a huge skier in Josh. Josh has skied in multiple continents. And we have an amazing yogi in Joe who can do a scorpion in yoga. He's going to do a handstand right here. He won't do it right here. He'll just look for him in the lobby later. But they're going to come on, and they're going to talk about this exciting new launch of ASICS. So if you like sneakers, if you like being outside, if you're excited about Solana in the real world, you're really going to like this session. So please join me in welcoming this short but very fun panel about getting outside and using crypto in the real world. Josh, Joe, and Austin, give it up.
Joe, what is ASICS doing here? What is ASICS Web3 origin story?
Yeah. What aren't we doing? So great to be here. Pleasure to be representing ASICS today, and just honored, honestly. So what is ASICS doing? We are a running shoe company. A lot of you may be familiar with us. We're a Japanese company. What a lot of people don't know, though, is ASICS is actually an acronym. Anima Sana in Corpore Sano, which stands for sound mind in a sound body.
It's not application specific integration.
No. Different ASICS. But for us, sound mind, sound body permeates everything we do. So yes, we sell amazing running shoes and build amazing running shoes, but at the end of the day, it is about helping people be healthy and feeling good in their body.
It's awesome. So you guys actually got started in Web3 last year on another chain. So you have a little bit of experience in this world, but you found a home on Solana. So let's talk about that.
Yeah. So for us, this has been a bit of a whirlwind experience. We, last July, I don't know if any of you saw this, Sunrise Red NFT collection, very small, but something we're very proud of collection back in July. And it was on Ethereum, and I will say it was one of those things where, similar to this, it felt like an opportunity for us to try, learn, be out there in the open, and put ourselves out with NFTs. And at the time, it was very new. Like, we didn't know really much about what we were doing, frankly. I think we know a little bit more now. But with that opportunity, we learned so much about just what this world is and what it could be, and really starting to find ourselves and who we are. And I will say, honestly, like with that project, one thing it was lacking was that connection to the physical world.
Right.
And what we do, like as one of the, I would humbly say, one of the better companies at creating awesome running products and physical products. And so since then, we've learned so much about not only who we are and what we want to do, but who we want to partner with to do it. And Ethereum is great. Nothing bad there. But for us, Solana does feel like home. It's something that allows us to be globally distributed, delivering amazing experiences from day one.
Yeah, and if you want to sell shoes to millions of people, which you do, you have to have speed, scale, transaction, throughput. Solana Pay checked all those boxes for you guys, right?
Yes, absolutely, yeah. So Josh and I go back to this past year. He wrote an amazing blog post that was like, what if you could buy a pair of running shoes, and with that, when you buy that pair of running shoes, you get an NFT. When you get that NFT, it can unlock future rewards of new things that you launch as a shoe company. And I was reading that, and I was like, Let's just do that.
Yeah, let's just do that.
Let's just do that. So cold email response, and I will say with Solana Pay specifically, what it allows us to do is create amazing stories around our product launches to tell these stories, right? Like we can talk about sound mind, sound body, and a lot of the products that we have in a new and exciting way. With what you'll see when we launch this shoe, it's available for the next 4 or so days. It's not just you buy a shoe with Solana Pay or you buy a shoe with USDC. You, of course, do that, but then in addition, you get an NFT with your purchase, and that NFT unlocks the potential for an airdrop. And that airdrop is airdrop with a partner we love in StepN. And that token, StepN, huge fans of StepN. And also just that token lives on. The transaction doesn't end when you purchase the shoe.
Yeah, I mean, Solana Pay, you told me you wanted a platform that would allow you to create a real interactive commerce experience for your customers, right? Like, it's not just a handshake of payments. It would allow you to see the tokens in their wallet and deliver value and utility at the point of sale during that transaction.
Yeah.
So when people are buying that shoe this weekend, they will instantly get that badge in their wallet. And then they will instantly be eligible for that StepN airdrop that's coming a little bit later. And Solana Pay just enables all that seamlessly.
Seamlessly. I mean, and I don't know if, Austin, you want to dive in on that point, yeah?
So, I mean, to that same extent, though, there's been a lot of brands, and there's been a few shoe brands, let's say, that have tried to enter Web3 with an NFT-only product offering, and the market really has rejected that for the most part, right? A lot of pure NFT plays that launched in the 2021 cycle, maybe it's a famous musician who decided to do an NFT drop. It's a brand that decided that they were going to take an image that they've created and put it as an NFT. Most of those, if you look for any success metrics for an NFT project, they didn't meet that bar. So
we certainly didn't.
Yeah. Well, I mean, but sure. But now going back and iterating on that again, what are the things that are different now about that experimentation in Web3?
100%. There's a physical shoe there, and more importantly, a physical shoe that we've purposely made to be something that you would actually wear. This is an understated shoe. It's something that is not intended to be loud. We want you to run your next 5K in it, your next 10K in it. We want you to train in it. We want you to feel good and proud of wearing the shoe. And it has, I think, just enough Solana on it, like not too loud, but just the touches, right? We have it on the tongue, we have it on the heel. And this shoe specifically, why we chose it, is we're doing global shipping. So we can ship to most countries in the world with the shoe. I think maybe for the first time at ASICS. I don't know if we've ever done that, honestly. So we're enabling global shipping, USDC only on Solana. And this shoe specifically is going to deliver an amazing experience to any runner with any fitness level, no matter what your goals are. And that's why we chose GT 2011 specifically. It's light enough, it's supportive enough, it's cushioned enough, it's going to feel great on your foot, whether you're male, female, in Australia, in Boston, in San Fran, in South America, wherever.
And
so, yeah.
You decided to call it the UI collection, right?
Yeah.
Like dark mode, light mode, like we all know what that means. I wasn't sure that you guys would want to go there, but you did. You went there.
Yeah, this is a love story to the Solana community. This is like, I personally am a massive fan. I love this community. I think this is amazing. I mean, everybody here has so much passion for what they're doing. Yet, we spend a lot of time looking at screens, right? We are in light mode and dark mode.
All day long.
Here we are in beautiful Lisbon, and like, even myself, I'm like, how many hours are we spending on phones and screens? And there's probably no shortage here in this group as well. But for us, we wanted to take that idea of light mode, dark mode, and have it inspire a new user interface, right? So the user interfaces we're looking at on screens all day are now transplanted onto a physical shoe that I think really feels very Solana to me.
And it's a tool too. Like we think of it as a tool for your health. Right? Like I was on another stage today and talking about all the amazing dev tools on the Solana platform. And I think of these too as a tool for you to do your best work because you get up out of that chair, you get out into the world, you get moving, you stay healthy. So I think it fits right in with our community.
Yeah, like you're not going to build the best technology without being physically and mentally healthy, right? And so that's like what this is about. We're purposely not using credit cards here. We're purposefully targeting this specific community to be using Solana Pay. This is for the Solana community to have another excuse to go out for a walk and a run, go use your StepN app, get out and move so you feel better and you can build better products.
Right, and the obviously, USDC, right? Massively important stablecoin for the ecosystem. Solana is the #2 network for USDC issuance across the world here, right? It's only behind Ethereum in USDC issuance. But USDC has existed for many years. It's been on Solana for a long period of time as well. What about the integration with Solana Pay changed this from a concept to something you could actually ship?
Yeah. Well, first of all, speed to market. Like, we were able to do this very quickly, which I'd say is a huge factor. You know, typically at a larger company, things tend to take a little bit longer. But for us, as you know, anybody who's worked at a big company can attest. But for us, we were able to get this live in a very short period of time and pretty painlessly, honestly, which is
it's impressive.
Yeah, appreciate it.
Shout out to the devs. Larry, TJ, thank you guys.
Yes, Larry, TJ, amazing, incredible talents. But yeah, I think what Solana Pay does specifically that I think is at least my favorite part of it is the transaction doesn't end when you make the purchase. It is kind of like just the beginning. You buy a physical product, hopefully that you love, and then you get an NFT that gives you access to the next story we're going to tell. And we want to continue to tell, and we can talk a little bit more about this, but we want to create experiences around our products that tell the stories that we're passionate about and get people moving. So when you get one of the badges, you buy one of these shoes, you buy 10 light modes, let's say, that would be incredible. You buy 10, you buy 10 light modes, you buy 10 dark modes.
Holidays are coming up. People,
We aren't shipping till March, so.
Oh, right. So you can print out.
Easter's coming up.
Yeah.
Easter, right around the
Delivering
corner.
for Easter.
Yeah. But the point being, you buy 10 of these, you buy 10 of those, you get instantly with that transaction, you get 10 light mode NFTs, 10 dark mode NFTs in your wallet, which you can, of course, go sell on a secondary market if you'd like. But more importantly, that is now a ticket to the next thing we're doing. And we're excited about continuing to deliver even better and better experiences over time that build on top of those tokens. So should be really fun.
So let's talk a little bit about STEPN. Obviously,
yes, of course.
You partnered with them before on another chain. It's fine. But you thought it was important to bring that STEPN community into this project as well. And so there are 1,001 NFTs that are going to be distributed once the sale closes, about a week later, give or take.
Yep.
Tell us a little bit about your STEPN relationship.
Yeah. Like STEPN lover. Like from when we first saw them, it was like, I can't believe this exists, and was such an obvious early partner for us. So we launched a project back on Binance actually in April. So we've been we've had a few partners over our time in the NFT space. Started on Ethereum, moved to Binance, learned a bunch on those, and again, as I mentioned, feeling much, like Solana is home. But with STEPN specifically, they're such a natural partner because they're such a motivator to move. It's like nothing that has ever existed before. Like actually earning a currency on chain that you just from going for a 5 or 10 minute walk. And it's such an amazing onboarding experience for people where like we will be airdropping 1,001 STEPN ASICS sneakers, STEPN sneakers, in Solana colorways. So we're very much leaning into the Solana brand palette. And hopefully people who aren't using STEPN get one of those shoes and can get onboarded into the experience and tell somebody else so that more people can get inspired to move and earn.
It's incredible. So what does success look like here for you guys? I mean, I know you've done limited drops before, and I don't know, what do you think, what would you like to see come out of this?
Yeah, I want to see as many people wearing these shoes. Like next year, I want hopefully everybody in the crowd is rocking these. That's the goal. Like I want for ASICS to feel like a natural partner for Solana moving forward, and for people to be excited about us showing up year in, year out to be able to deliver more awesome shoes, awesome experiences for you all. But I do think we want to continue to push the boundaries of what Web3 can do for a major global brand.
Yeah.
And we want to continue to use Solana Pay. We want to continue to partner with some of the amazing partners we've had in this project to just get people extremely excited about being physically active.
Yeah, it's the same for us. I mean, this is a really important sort of case study for what Solana Pay can do for big brands and retailers. So we hope that the Solana community embraces this, goes out, buys shoes for themselves, for their family members, and then we can take this to, other companies, other brands, other retailers, and say, this is what we could do. This is why. This is what it achieved for ASICS. This is something that you should consider. I think it's really helpful for us to bring that message to the world.
Yeah. And it's storytelling, right? Like I keep saying this, but like I don't know, like as a consumer, I buy a shoe and I get it and then it ends. And there's so much more opportunity for creativity there. And like for us, like our constraints are actually really great. We want to help people move. We want to get people excited about our shoes. Those are our constraints. Everything else is just creative material, right? Like we can do whatever we want outside of those constraints. So that's the world we want to explore, and Solana Pay allows us to like explore that very freely. As you're seeing here, like a lot of what we're doing here, a lot of it hasn't been done before. So yeah. Yeah, and
On a network level, I think kind of a question some people might ask is why do these sort of relationships matter, and why does getting more people using Solana Pay, how does that benefit the rest of the ecosystem and the network? And payments are sort of that gateway to DeFi, right? And DeFi is the core of most on-chain activity. And so all this work that's being done about how do we deliver real value to merchants and consumers by reducing transaction fees and enabling cross-border payments seamlessly and instantly, the more people are transacting on-chain as a form of payment, the more money is on chain, which then funnels directly into DeFi projects. And you sort of see something analogous to credit cards and PayPal in the early days are a gateway to that fintech revolution that happened just a few years later. And so, initiatives like this are really laying the groundwork for this mainstream adoption of not just payments, not just Solana, not just DeFi, but this whole Web3 ecosystem.
Oh, yeah. Totally agree. And one point I wanted to mention, I forgot. We're only producing as many shoes as we sell. So the environmental impact here is minimal. They're already environmentally minimally impactful. ASICS has a commitment to that. But there's no waste here in the system. So Solana, best blockchain for the environment. ASICS aligned with that mission. So I'm really happy about that.
Amazing.
So you wanted to maybe surprise some people here?
Yeah. So raise your hand if you're currently training for any sort of running anything.
I see some over here. Oh, yeah. Okay.
So get some hands. All right.
Keep those hands up.
So keep the hands up. And if you are a size 9 men or size 10.5 women, keep your hand up. All right.
I saw a few more hands go up.
You guys choose. You guys choose.
There, and there.
Come on up.
All right.
Who did you actually choose, though?
Right here. Light mode or dark mode?
10.5 women? Yeah.
Light mode. Okay. Yeah. Give it up.
Come on up.
Yeah. We want you to run your race in those.
Run your next race in that. Yeah. Enjoy.
Perfect. All right.
Great.
They still have the sample tags attached, so these are like very, very rare. Enjoy.
And for those who do end up going through the process, there is a nice little surprise on the order completion page, so I'll leave it there.
Yeah. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everybody.
Hello, Breakpoint. I am extremely excited to talk to you guys today about the latest app that's rolling out support for creators on Solana, Instagram. My name is Ty Swartz, and I am a product manager on Instagram's Creator Blockchain Experiences team. At Instagram, we are obsessed with creators. We believe they're the ones that drive our platform forward. Creators are the artists, community builders, and internet personalities that allow for platforms like Instagram to thrive. Our team often gets asked the question, why is Instagram interested in supporting NFTs, or as we call them on our platform, digital collectibles? And the answer comes back to this fundamental obsession with creators. We want to build tools that enable them to thrive. And we recognize the blockchain's potential to enable creators to make a living on their work, establish provenance for the digital assets, and is a powerful tool to build communities. Digital collectibles on Instagram have a differentiated experience. They have their own section of the profile grid. This is some of the most expensive real estate on Instagram. They also have a unique visual treatment with a shimmer that allows a user to understand this isn't just another image or video. This is something different. And there's also direct attribution to the owner of the item directly on the post, as well as when the creator connects their wallet, attribution on anything they've created that's listed on Instagram. And as of this week, Solana is another blockchain that creators and fans can use to share the digital collectibles that they love. Additionally, we just finished rolling out this week into 40 countries in Europe, including Portugal. So I want to thank the Solana team for having us in this amazing location. And I'm sure everyone's had the chance to post and send some stories about this beautiful city. So I want to take a quick minute and sort of walk you through how you can also share your favorite Solana NFTs, or digital collectibles, here today. So as a quick caveat, this rolled out last night. So if it doesn't show up on your phone, just give it a day. Hopefully it'll be there. Sai, our engineer, has assured me that it is rolled out and we are good to go. All right, so when you go into your Instagram page, you're going to see your profile page in the bottom right. It's the little circle with your face on it. You're going to click on that, and it's going to open up your profile grid. On the profile grid in the top right, there is a quick menu button. When you click on the menu button, it'll drop down a list of options, one of which will be digital collectibles. It'll take you through 2 prompts explaining what digital collectibles are and how they work on Instagram, and then it'll show you a list of wallet options that you can connect to. Today, we support Phantom Wallet for integration into the Solana network. Once you select the Phantom Wallet, it'll take you over to Phantom and have you sign a transaction proving that you are the owner of the wallet. When you go back into Instagram, if you give it a moment, all of your digital collectibles will be there and available for you to share. Don't worry, they won't automatically go to your feed or show up in your profile. You have to actually select and share something that you want to share within your feed. So I want to say thank you to the Solana team for letting us be a part of this community. We are extremely excited to see what we build together. We are just getting started. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Ty. I think it's super interesting to see such a large platform like Instagram actually embrace Solana NFTs. So it kind of like shows how mature the Solana NFT space and ecosystem is. Next up, we have another very interesting speaker, Kevin Bowers from Jump, who's going to speak to us about Firedancer, which is the second validator client on Solana. So let's welcome Kevin Bowers from Jump.
Hi, and thanks, Colin, for that great introduction. I'm Kevin Bowers, and I guess my title at Jump Trading is Chief Science Officer, but we aren't very title-centric. The title of this talk is Hold Me Closer, Frankendancer, an introduction to Jump and Firedancer in 5 easy pieces. When I was asked to speak at this conference, I was asked to cover 5 topics in this talk a little bit about what Firedancer is, give a little bit of background about me, give a little bit of background about Jump, describe our development approach, and show our progress thus far. So that's just what we'll do. This is tricky in the limited time available, but there's a longer talk with demos tomorrow, which will cover many more details. The slide button's not going. Yeah, great. So what is Firedancer? Firedancer is a new Solana validator under development. I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time here talking about it, at least in terms of what it is. This audience already knows better than me what a validator is and the long-term importance of the Solana ecosystem of having a second validator and a third and a fourth. It is worth noting, though, that this development is being done fully in the open, and we are having this development extensively audited and, where possible, formally verified. We encourage the community to take a look at the repo above. Likewise, I'm not going to spend much time covering my background. You can read my bio or look me up online for details. However, I'm very much an outlier here, as my background is neither crypto nor finance. This makes the how did I get here question relevant and worth a brief summary. I did my undergrad at Purdue in electrical engineering, initially focused on chip design and manufacturing. After an extended internship at Intel, I concluded Moore's Law would end before I retired. So I pivoted towards electromagnetics and signal processing to unleash my inner physicist and mathematician. At the end of undergrad, I decided it was now or never for grad school, and my chip exposure and my pivot accidentally primed me for doing computational plasma physics research. After an internship doing signal processing research at Los Alamos, did my PhD at Berkeley in EECS on computational simulation of plasmas for chip manufacturing, and won a number of awards for this work. At this point, it looked like I was on the standard academic research track to become a professor, so I went to Bell Labs next to research optoelectronic chip manufacturing. I got exposed to a lot of advanced telecom tech as Bell Labs continuously reorganized in response to the dot-com bust. After several false starts at Bell Labs, I went back to Los Alamos and worked on massively parallel plasma simulation. This work also won several awards. Then a unique opportunity came up. A hedge fund was interested in designing custom supercomputers for biochemistry simulation, and my past with chip design, massively parallel supercomputers, and plasma simulation, which oddly enough has lots of theoretical overlap with molecular dynamics, accidentally primed me for this work. So I went to D. Shaw Research in New York City and spent several years doing computational biochemistry, and I won several awards for that work too. Being adjacent to finance work in New York City demystified it for me and gave me the hubris to say probably when Jump asked, could you make our computers faster? So I was off to Jump in Chicago. At that time, I didn't think of my prior work would be directly useful, but I was wrong. Nearly everything I've done in my past has been applied both directly and indirectly at Jump trading. For years, I thought I was just lucky to stumble into a role that exactly matched my rather atypical background. A few years ago, I realized that this wasn't entirely chance. Jump adapts to its employees more so than any organization I've been exposed to. And though all of this was pre-Jump getting into crypto, this adaptability probably is related to why Jump adapted so fast to crypto as well, too. There's been a recurrent theme in all of this. And what basically has happened is an organization approaches me and says, hey, we have some useful code, some useful models. It's not very well documented. It doesn't run as robustly or as fast as we'd like. Can your team make a robust, fast, and documented implementation? And then I say, probably. From my point of view, all that happened was I was asked the same question about Solana about a year ago. And I gave the same answer. And since this work started a couple months ago, the main surprise for me is the level of attention this work is getting. It's kind of surreal to be standing here on this stage with our code snips tweeted about as we're checking them in, and internet memes floating around about us. We are generally more comfortable putting our heads down, coding away in the background, and then maybe a much smaller community noticing much, much later. But we have been pleasantly surprised and grateful for the welcoming reception this community has given us. It isn't obvious what Jump might want to do with the computational physicist or what Solana might want to do with the trading firm for that matter. So why Jump? On this slide is an abstract from a talk at an FPGA conference 7 years ago given by my colleague Kaveh Asari. Kaveh will be joining me on stage tomorrow on the dev workshop. Like me, he was on the academic track and eventually found his way to Jump trading. His colleagues still in academia were asking him, what interest could a finance firm possibly have in an FPGA hardware research engineer? Isn't it all Wolf of Wall Street and badly written Excel spreadsheets? It's not. And as an aside, like when interviewing somebody who spent his career in the extremes of scientific computing and was uncomfortable if he'd fit in at a finance firm, when I asked at the end of his interview, do you have any questions for me? He asked, what is the airspeed velocity of an unladen swallow? And I promptly said, African or European. And I guess that was the right answer because he did join Jump. And afterwards, he related to me that, my answer dispelled any notion that he was joining a stereotypical finance firm when he came here. So anyway, Kaveh's colleagues were asking him to make an abstract for this talk, and this presented us with the challenge of making an abstract that was sufficiently academic enough to make it through peer review, but also sufficiently anodyne to make it through legal review. And this is what we came up with. I'm not going to read this abstract to you. I'll just tell you what it really says. Everybody hires smart people. Our job would be a lot easier if our competitors weren't so good. And everybody has the same information. This is less obvious and a frequent worry to people outside this nation. This once included me. In practice, exchanges are under intense competitive regulatory pressure to ensure everybody has the same information. Nobody wants to trade where the fix is in. The level of exclusivity required to get co-located space and connectivity is little more than do you have a credit card. Overall, exchanges don't want to simultaneously make less money and irritate regulators by turning away customers. Broad trends in the events like this conference make it abundantly clear to us that we're likely to see even further reductions of barriers to entry to finance. And as we'll see, we view this as a good thing, and this explains a lot of Jump's interest in this space. Next is Everybody has the same laws of physics. This almost seems too obvious to state, but it has deep implications for this industry. If you look in this competition for fairness between exchanges, in some venues it has trading firms fighting over single-digit nanoseconds. And if you really want to understand this, you think about the size of a packet and how long it is. You're actually talking about a couple bytes within a packet of competition there. When you're down there, nothing in the commodity space is relevant. Nothing works. And this has forced firms like us to essentially create a parallel universe tech stack developed from the transistor and fiber optic up. Now, when you combine all these things together, what you find is that how you execute is decisive in this industry. And there are two big areas of execution. One is taking an idea into a strategy, and then the second is implementing that strategy sufficiently fast to be competitive. And so ideas to strategies is the quantitative research side of the equation. It's figuring out what the prices are. This involves a lot of supercomputer-style number crunching on large data sets, machine learning. Jump is somewhat the hipsters in this space because we were into this niche before it was cool. But since everybody is smart and everybody has the same information, everybody eventually figures out the right prices. So you just want to figure them out first, because as we'll see, exchanges are strongly incentivized to prioritize the people who bring this new info to market first. So strategy to implementation is where all the high-performance networking and computing come into play. Now, this structure and the entire structure of the electronic trading industry, for that matter, is just a consequence of price time priority at an exchange. To understand this better, price priority is basically quantitative research. Time priority is all the high-performance computing. And from my more computer science point of view, an exchange is just a concurrent data structure that runs a distributed protocol to do consensus price discovery. In old-timey photos like you see here, you can even see people standing at a chalkboard running the algorithm by hand. Nowadays, people at chalkboards are servers at an exchange. People shouting at them are trading firm servers, and the shouts are network packets. I didn't know any of this before coming to Jump. My mental model of the world at that time was the price fairy flittering about, bestowing prices randomly on securities. But understanding how it really works is useful both in general and for this talk to understand why firms like Jump are so into trading and suitable for a project like Firedancer. Now, this figure is a cartoon over here where the buyers are on the left, the sellers are on the right, the prices go vertically from low to high, and Bob and Carole have shown up to sell at different prices, but there are no buyers. So they wait. Price priority is an algorithmic guarantee that if a trade happens, it was at the best possible price at that venue at that time. Alice has shown up as a buyer. The price she is willing to buy at is lower than the price Bob and Carole are willing to sell at. There is no price that satisfies any buyer-seller pair, so Alice waits too. Alice raised her price now, and now there's a range of prices that Alice and Bob agree are mutually fair. Nobody agrees with Carole. Alice and Bob will trade. The specific prices will be in the agreeable range, but otherwise depends on the exchange's policies. If Alice wants more than Bob has to offer, Alice will end up rating for the rest, and vice versa. Now, in this example, Alice is impatient to buy and offers a very high price. Alice and Bob trade first. If Alice wants more than Bob is offering, Alice and Carole trade next. And if Alice wants more still, Alice will wait for the rest after the trades. If the exchange gave the initial trade to Carole, Alice would conclude the exchange is a bad place run by bad people who should feel bad and take her business to another exchange where they have better policies. And if there was no such other exchange for Alice to take her business to, there'd be big pressure and big opportunity to create one. And then the bad exchange would learn the hard way the answer to the question, what would happen if you made an exchange and nobody showed up? Now, in this example, Carole reduced her price to be competitive with Bob. To break ties in cases like this, a very common method is time priority. Like before, Alice and Bob will trade, followed by Alice and Carole, if at all. Alice and Carole get the same price for the trade with Bob, and a better price for any trade with Carole. Bob gets the lion's share of the trade. This is literally preschool logic. I was first in line, teacher. It is well motivated theoretically, though. People want the best prices because nobody wants to pay more, and they want them as soon as possible because few are willing to wait. By statistical necessity, these are going to be the places with the most participants. And you can just understand this, that if I take a small subset, random subset of sellers, the best price amongst them is probably not going to be the best price amongst all sellers because it's probably unlikely I picked the best one in my small sample. So exchanges want lots of people to show up because they can only improve the price. Now here, Carole sped up a little bit. Now she gets the lion's share of the opportunity. And this means that all a firm like Jump can do is offer better deals than everybody else, at least some of the time. Otherwise, nobody trades with us and we die a slow death. This is a necessary condition, though not a sufficient condition. Our best prices need to be profitable on average for us too. If they aren't, everybody trades with us and we die a fast death. The process is known as adverse selection. Our counterparties neither know nor care whether a deal is good for us. In fact, they don't even know who we are because exchanges rarely give away that information, and for good reason. Shares are interchangeable. We don't need to know who is offering and why, and conversely, we generally don't want to know our counterparties to know why we are offering or who we are. The second thing that we can do is we can take deals that are net profitable for us at least some of the time. And because those will probably be competitive profitable for our competitors as well, we have to do that really, really fast too. So in this dynamic, there are other rules for breaking ties and time priority. The big kind of question here is, what generates the best outcome for retail and institutional investors? And anything that incentivizes people to show up and get lots of traders and people and institutional investors and whatnot to be there is going to be a place with good prices. Empirically, price-time priority works best, but it doesn't really make a difference to us. It just changes the flavor of the technical challenges that we have to deal with. Now, the psychology of an electronic trading firm further creates a feedback loop which drives technology investment. To understand this, understand that traders live to trade. For them, profits are just a market signal that they're good at what they do, and they look at that as saying, great, I get to do more of what I love, and they reinvest their profits in trading. Now, on top of that, I stole this phrase from our COO, who recently used it in a presentation, of this competitive paranoia. And this price-time dynamic that I talked about creates a winner-take-most dynamic. It's very Talladega Nights, if you're not first, you're last kind of mentality. And so you always have this justified worry that you might be falling behind. Or to put it more colloquially, on good days, the firm thinks to itself, we have a deep and prophetic understanding of markets. And on bad days, we think to ourselves, we have a deep and prophetic understanding of markets, but our competitors are killing us because our tech is awful. So when you're looking at where to reinvest your profits, what are you thinking about doing? Well, always at the top of your mind is thinking about, let's reinvest it in technology. Now, to us, commodity technology is table stakes. Anything that we can buy, our competitors can buy. So by itself, any commodity technology is not a source of competitive advantage. Finding new ways to leverage commodity tech can be. We continually evaluate vendor offerings to see how they might improve our performance. So you see huge investments in commodity tech, systems that are as large as anything I was playing with at the national labs. At the same time, commodity tech is often uncompetitive. In fact, it's worse than that because it's getting worse over time. There's an anti-Moore's law thing going on for us. Our tech stack has been diverging from commodity tech stacks for over a decade now. And that's because vendors are increasingly prioritizing things like, the average throughput, the latency, trading away their burst throughput, their latency, their predictability of their systems for average throughput, better adaptive power consumption and yield, and that's because they're targeting loud cloud vendors. So these are the worst possible trade-offs for a firm like us. So when we're looking at the things that we need to do to keep on surviving, excuse me, sending the right order to an exchange in second place 10 times is just a really expensive way to lose money. So while we are high margin for vendors, we're not big enough for them to really care about us. So you see huge investments in custom tech as well. Now, Jump has a VC arm, and a VC once related to me that he viewed electronic trading as the Super Bowl of technology, and that's because we deal with all of the problems. We need systems that are this laundry list of, accountable, transparent, fault-tolerant, adaptable, scalable, predictable, high throughput, and yes, the one everyone thinks of when they think of a firm like this, low latency. But this isn't one of those situations where they say, here's a laundry list of things you want your system to have, pick two. We have to get them all right. Otherwise, we die in the markets. So you see, customized tech has gone everywhere within our stack. Prior to crypto taking off, though we had all this tech, we were mostly blind to use cases outside of trading and rarely talked about it. And we are still pretty freaked out talking about it right now. Remember, traders live to trade. So discussions that started with, we could use our trading tech X to do big non-trading thing Y, would get puzzled looks and responses on bad days like, didn't you get the memo that our tech is really, really slow? Or, on good days, what does that have to do with making our trading more competitive? When crypto started taking off, though, and we saw the potential in the trends, we started waking up to the fact that we have a lot to offer outside of conventional trading. We realized that instead of being way behind in many areas, we were way ahead. Given these dynamics from a networking point of view, traditional markets look like a distributed denial of service attack that never ends, with multiple high bandwidth network links that routinely simultaneously saturate at line rate. And we need to keep up with that to stay alive. And much of this is beyond what current commodity tech can handle, especially in software. So our bread and butter is redundant, multi-homed, high bandwidth network links feeding a distributed, heterogeneous mixture of CPUs, GPUs, FPGAs, and ASICs. Ultimately, jump production systems look like a distributed packet filtering and transfer engine, along with some capture and replay infrastructure for various types of offline analysis. And so does a Solana validator. Thinking longer term, it isn't too surprising Jump would be deeply interested in an efficient, robust, and trusted means for recording transactions. And handling transaction loads like seen in traditional finance requires handling burst speeds in the millions. Even supporting just one transaction per day per person in the world requires about 80,000 transactions per second. We want to give Solana a lot of room to grow. So we're approaching Firedancer development layer by layer with the 3 high-level components shown here. This is in alignment with our development philosophy. We tend to run along the data path and optimize as we go. To understand why, I've grabbed some slides from a presentation I made 15 years ago about the first large-scale simulations on the first supercomputer in the world to break a petaflop. I actually presented these in Lisbon many, many moons ago around that time. I view this slide as where Moore's Law accidentally died. You can blame me if you want. This is a picture of a DIMM and the high-level specs of a high-end compute core circa late 2000s. Well, today, DIMMs are still the same size, and commodity cores are still about the same speed. All the advances we've seen in the last decade in manufacturing technology have gone into making more cores and not faster cores, and there's good engineering and economic reasons for this. And given the way DRAM works under the hood, the critical path roughly scales at the perimeter of the DIMM. And we know the speed of light, and we know the materials involved, and we know the distance here, so we know it takes a couple of nanoseconds for light to propagate around the DIMM. That's around 10 clocks. We could have done 80 floating point operations per core at that time. There were 8 such cores per socket in the system. We could have done 640 flops in a socket in that time. And the equivalent nowadays would be in the mid to high thousands on a high-end CPU socket. Jump's tech stack is the result of optimizing around the speed of light at a global scale. In essence, we do relativistic trading, as everything we do is speed of light limited. Like the realtor expression, location, 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 optimizing location is the key for high performance. Unfortunately, most vendors have gone the opposite way and keep trying to abstract away locality details from developers as though everything is still just a PC-AT from 1982. Unsurprisingly, most developers only get results that scratch the surface of what is possible. Fortunately, it's even worse than that. When developers try to get into this, they are discouraged. I think about half the tech headlines I read today basically amount to write wasteful code, buy more cloud, encourages green cloud provider. There's lots of expressions like premature optimization is the root of all evil, which abound within the area. No, premature optimization, that's completely wrong. We view that as the ultimate NPC comment. Like we wonder when somebody says that to us if they go home and stand in a closet in a T position at night. The big thing that we keep looking at in those areas is that, the big thing that keeps on going on there is that if you don't get your data flow right up front, it's not a simple recompile to fix it, it's a complete rewrite. And so we start off by optimizing the data flow and making sure we get that right so we have something that's fundamentally sound from the get-go. The next is the tyranny of Amdahl's law. Something we didn't bother to optimize will pump up whack-a-mole style and become performance limiting. We've seen too many projects fail because of uncompetitive performance caused by a computer science version of decision paralysis. Essentially, nothing gets optimized because there's no immediate payoff to any one optimization because there's so many components of the system and none of them are particularly well optimized. So when you combine locality constraints with heterogeneous computing, the world is an even harsher place. It doesn't obey Amdahl's law, it obeys Amdahl Street justice. Dedicated compute in the right location is compute that can't be used for other calculations because either it's in the wrong location or it's too specialized for the other calculation. The parts you don't optimize actually get worse because they have less compute available to them for a fixed system cost. As a result, in niches like high-performance computing and finance, roughly speaking, rare niches, unlike most of the technology industry, where machine time is more valuable than developer time, everything must be optimized eventually. We just accept this as a matter of fact and optimize as we go. I'm not getting an advance. There we go. Additionally, we are doing this incrementally to modularize the validator as part of the documentation and standardization goals and to keep Firedancer development in sync with ongoing Solana development. This leads to the concept of a Frankendancer, where we stitch components we've developed into Solana's existing validator as we go and slowly make a new validator and one that others can replace components of as desired for their own validators. We've named our first Frankendancer Frank. While there might be some advantages to running Frank in the wild, we suspect this initial step will be akin to putting a sports car in the middle of a traffic jam. But we also expect as more components get improved and bottlenecks get removed, the robustness and performance will grow. This is a high-level block diagram for Frank. We don't have much time to get into details, but we are planning for support for multi-homed, redundant, high-bandwidth NICs, coherently randomized flow steering for load distribution, the ability to use hardware acceleration, and the use of multiple process boundaries for additional security between components, and potentially support even more aggressively distributed implementations in the future. We are supporting relatively low-end vanilla cloud hosts running vanilla Linux operating systems with minimal external dependencies, but we are optimizing for higher-end, high core count servers and longer-term aiming to leverage hardware already available in the cloud. Drilling down, this is a zoom of some of the tiles. We also don't have much time to get into details here. Suffice to say, it's all checked in. Take a look. Notably, there's no memory allocations or atomic operations or hardware fences in the critical path. All allocations are bounded and NUMA optimized at initialization. Objects are persisted and typically on a single gigantic NUMA page per NUMA node for maximum TLB efficiency. We have good inter-process hardware interfacing efficiency. We have the ability to asynchronously inspect these things remotely and snapshot the running state. Tiles can be asynchronously started, stopped, and restarted. They can be grouped into processes for that enhanced security and operational things. The tile stacks are typically back, so on and so forth. I can keep on going. But we can talk more about that tomorrow, along with talking more about development strategy. Then we plan to do a live demo of the code as it is checked in today, running on a very old x86 architecture GCP host with a very vanilla operating system and a Solana-like distribution of transactions in a 2-to-1 redundant high availability configuration, getting around 1.2 million raw transactions per second and around 0.6 million unique after deduplication. On a recent high clock rate, high core count hosts with all the fancy, we can run substantially faster, but we thought it important to demonstrate that you can just run this on widely available hardware now. And then Philip will present some of our results from our initial efforts applying quantitative techniques to improve block packing efficiency. We've already been able to improve the prediction quality dramatically while simplifying the algorithm, and this is applicable to the existing validator too, and that can give it benefits right now to just efficiency of packing blocks and better utilization of the existing block rates. And then Kaveh will do a live demo of some of our cheap and widely available FPGAs to dramatically reduce the hardware footprint required for a validator while dramatically increasing throughput. We're calling the hardware acceleration efforts related to Firedancer, particularly network ones, Wiredancer. Components we've studied for acceleration are shown on the right. Roughly speaking, hardware accelerated SIG verify, protocol and flow steering offload, hardware accelerated replay, and hardware accelerated transaction processing. We've been targeting readily available FPGA hardware initially. Among other things, Kaveh will show SHA-512 at 100 gigabits line rate using only a tiny fraction of the area on an older low-end FPGA readily available at cloud providers. And this is the first step of doing hardware accelerated SIG verify. And I think with that, that's all I have to say, but see us tomorrow for additional details.
Wow, that was awesome. Having a second validator client on Solana is actually a huge deal. So it's very interesting to hear from Kevin on the reasons why Jump decided to kind of take on and lead that engineering effort. Next up, we have our first panel for this afternoon, where we're going to hear about how compression will decimate network cost on Solana. So please, with a warm welcome, let's invite Ash, who's the moderator from Metaplex. We have Austin Adams, Canaan Linder, Rodri Fernandez, Vidor and Gencel. So let's welcome them up for this panel for this afternoon.
Hello, hello, hello. We were told by Anna two things. One, to project to the audience, and two, to look at the clock. So we are going to respect her wishes. But thank you all for coming to our panel. What we've observed in terms of what speakers have talked about on this stage are really orders of magnitude, levels of effort to push this ecosystem into their next evolutionary phase, which is why we're so excited to talk about compression. We have a great mix of panelists here, which I will let them introduce themselves in a moment. But our goal today is to really talk about what compression does, the technical feats we had to manage to get there, and some of the use cases when we're talking with partners, activation of this asset, and how we actually help them move forward. So we're going to manage a technical and more of a use case product-centric conversation here. So I'm Ash, I'm from Metaplex. We're just going to go down the row for people to introduce themselves. Austin.
Hi, I'm Austin. I'm one of the engineers at Metaplex working on compression.
Sure. Hi, I'm Canaan. I'm the CEO at Stardust.
Hey everyone, I'm Rodri, co-founder at Crossmint.
Hey everyone, I'm Vidor. Built blockchains for a few years, discovered Solana, started building wallets, explorers, DeFi protocols, focusing on Soulflower wallets right now.
Awesome. So, as builders within Solana, I think we can all agree that some of the out-of-box benefits are really incredible today. One, you have a highly performative network, minimal energy consumption footprint, and because of the emphasis of the Solana Labs team and the builders early on in the space on community, you have a vibrant culture already ready to go. So what does compression do? Well, when we look at the next phase of people minting at scale, to the scale of millions, billions of NFTs, compression bends the cost curve. So today, costs linearly scale. So if you want to mint 10,000 NFTs, it's 120 SOL. With compression, it's 3. So you have a 40x savings. If you want to mint 1 million NFTs, before compression, it was 12,000 SOL. With compression, it's 5 SOL. And if you want to mint 1 billion, the cost is 12 million SOL pre-compression. Post-compression, it's 500 SOL. So I really want to emphasize that because you can actually start to imagine the use cases that pop up when cost is not an extreme gate to actually scale. So the way I want to position some of the conversation here is understanding that you should know we are in a beta phase for this product, which means that we are integrated with some core infrastructure and wallet partners like Soulflare to have a dev-ready experience for you all. But we are fastly pushing to general access to the public, which we'll talk a little through at the end. But Austin, we're here in beta, but can you talk a little bit about the technical journey to get us here?
Yeah. So the compression project represents a lot of work that the Solana Labs team and the Metaplex Studios team have done together. Very, very smart individuals. Our team was able to work with their team to create a new generalized system for compressing any form of account data on Solana. But after that was created and the technical challenges there were solved, we turned to, okay, now let's compress NFTs, because that was always the chief goal. But again, it's a generalized system for compressing any data on Solana, which I think is a very key point to bring up. So bring your use case. We had to solve one specific problem, which was that Merkle trees, which just in general are not very easily parallelizable, because you have to do one thing right after another. And that's not going to work on a blockchain that can go concurrently. And so, Jerry Zhao and Noah and a lot of the Solana Labs team and the Metaplex team were able to push through this barrier by creating something called the concurrent Merkle tree. And you can read more about that in the compression documentation and everything like that. That allows us to have possibly, well, not possibly, allows us to have, let's say, a tree with 1 billion positions that you can have NFTs in. And if every one of those is owned by one specific person, those operations can happen without these people have to be waiting on each other. And with the high throughput of Solana, we can now mint and operate at scale with compression. Not only that, but of course it reduces the costs, which also helps bring more use cases on. It helps bring more people into the ecosystem to create a stronger network.
That's great. So, Canaan, knowing you're leading Stardust and the job to be done, how do you think about kind of the use case of minting at this scale and kind of what your customers need? Talk a little bit about that.
100%. I'll start quickly with Stardust. We're a platform that obfuscates blockchain for game developers so they can manage millions, hopefully billions of players at scale, fully custodial, minting with API keys and JSON data rather than sending transactions directly to the blockchain. Many of our customers, mobile, desktop, are thinking about scale much past the 10,000 NFTs we've seen to date. And so we have customers coming to us and saying, how do we put 100 million plus NFTs on Solana for 5 million MAU? Cost is a definite concern for them as they look at their LTVs or lifetime value per user and what NFTs can do for that cost curve. And pre-compression, the effective 30 cents, 40 cents per mint on Solana for anything above 10,000 NFTs made it very difficult for them to monetize with NFTs users that were not full-scale whales. With compression, we can now bring NFTs to millions and billions of people through Solana, through Stardust to our customers in a cost-effective manner that allows them to better monetize their games and better think about use cases on what to do with NFTs for the long term.
What are some of those use cases that they've come to you with?
Sure. I can't speak too much to what some of our great customers are doing. We see a lot of customers thinking about the crossover between games and DeFi. And when you have resources in UGC-based games, it's very important to create sustainable markets. And I know we're not here to talk about creative royalties, but with royalties going back to those developers. And so when you have millions of players creating tens of millions, hundreds of millions of items in a UGC-based environment month over month, pricing all comes back to that being on-chain to be able to leverage these great marketplaces we have today, and also DeFi products like Orca and more.
That's awesome. Rodri, I want to pass it to you. You've really been amazing in onboarding enterprise customers as one aspect of what Crossmint is doing, but talk to me a little bit about what your customers are looking for and how this kind of enables that.
Sounds good. Hi, everyone. Super quick intro to Crossmint. We build infrastructure to make NFTs more accessible. So you may know us by powering credit card purchases at Magic Eden and some of the other largest marketplaces. But more broadly, we're building infrastructure to enable enterprises to create and distribute NFTs at scale to mainstream audiences as well. So today, there's 3 challenges for enterprise adoption. The first one is that gas fees are very expensive. Well, now no more. Second one is that most of the audiences of enterprises don't have wallets. They don't know what crypto is. And the third one is if an enterprise wants to create an NFT, they have to create a crypto wallet. They have to decide who gets to store those keys within the enterprise. And there's a lot of security and auditing considerations that makes it such that starting a project is extremely inefficient and takes often months to go to market, and everyone is reinventing the wheel. So today, we're launching a new product for minting for enterprises that enables them to create NFTs and send them to anyone. That anyone can be a wallet address or an email address at scale for about 10 cents per NFT, including gas fees in Solana. And costs will go down with volume, but also as compression is fully rolled out. Some examples of how enterprises are using or have been using in our beta the minting API are Solana Spaces. The physical retailer is airdropping every week a weekly newsletter in the form of an NFT. That's a use case that before, with 40 cents per NFT, was absolutely impossible or unthinkable. But now, with just a few cents, it totally is. Another client of us called Hinn, they're building NFT-based loyalty programs for some of the leading brands and retailers in the world, and they're leveraging the API to be able to distribute those NFTs in a way that in which customers don't even know that that's an NFT. It has all of the benefits of it, but with all of the complexity abstracted. And we have ticketing companies and others also piloting on how to transform that industry through the use of NFTs.
That's great. Vidor, I want you to talk about a couple things, but the first thing is, thank you so much for having a product ready by Breakpoint. I think they did it in 3 weeks. So we really appreciate that because people can actually see how it feels and works. But when you think about compression and the use cases it opens up, right? It's not so much about, one person having 1 million NFTs themselves. It's 1 million people or 10 million people or 20 or 100 or 1 billion having at least one NFT. So from your perspective of Solflare on the wallet side, how do you think about 1 billion people having an NFT and trying to do a bunch of things with it in your platform?
Yeah, thanks, Ash. Well, there's a few things to unpack here. From a wallet perspective, we think that it is really important for wallets to not depend on some third-party APIs or some proprietary technology, because all of us here are working under the assumption that Solana is a distributed ledger that will always be online. And the way that we communicate with this distributed ledger is through RPCs. So we firmly believe that all of this additional technology that's being built should be built within those RPCs. Just to clear it up, so we don't call some third-party API that might be hosted on Amazon or something. We let the users choose their RPC endpoints. And these RPC endpoints return, in most cases, a truthful state of what the ledger says. And I think compressed NFTs are actually a revolutionary thing, because why would you need to allocate so much space on the blockchain when you can just provide a proof that's aggregated into few bytes, 34 whatever bytes of data that you as a client can prove. So you can basically prove the ownership of your existence totally offline. So we might as well call this layer 2 for NFTs on top of Solana that lets us mint billions of NFTs. And another thing is that we've heard some great solutions from Canaan about how they manage minting NFTs for their partners and their games. This obviously needs to be a very stage-by-stage process. For example, you cannot expect a game that wants to onboard with this type of interoperable assets to jump in and start crafting Solana transactions. Sometimes it is important to give them an API, a key, some infrastructure, some interfaces that they're used to interfacing with, and let them build on that. The good thing is that all of this data would be put on a blockchain, or it will be in the form of compressed NFTs. And us, as Solflare, we really have the best interest for our users to display all of their assets, all of the assets that the user owns, either them being directly on the blockchain or in the form of compressed NFTs. If you want to unwrap that NFT, uncompress that NFT, then it will start living as a separate NFT on the blockchain, and you will be able to list it, send it, move it, do whatever you want with it. Just maybe want to stress out one more point, and that is the verifiability that you actually own this asset. And the great thing in an architecture decision that Metaplex did here and Solana Labs with concurrent Merkle trees is that all of this compressed NFT technology is built on top of existing RPCs, on top of existing Solana infrastructure, meaning that it's easy for developers to plug in, very easy for developers to implement, and there are some few very cool RPC providers as RPC Pools, Triton, that are already working on implementing this. So ultimately, our implementation as a wallet boils down to implementing the new methods for obtaining these compressed NFTs and displaying them with other NFTs in our wallet.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, Austin, do you want to talk a little bit about how you approach the RPC model here?
Yeah, so the the concurrent Merkle tree produces very, very little state on chain. And that's on purpose, of course, which requires the actual proofs, what we call the leaves of the Merkle tree, to be stored somewhere, right? And the way that we designed it is that those leaves can always be reconstructed from looking at the transaction history. And the best place to obviously get transaction history and actual ledger state data is from the RPC provider. The reason is because even if an RPC node becomes malicious, you can just move to another one that's running the correct version of software. It's all running the same specification. Solana RPC providers run the same software in most cases. They serve the same data. And we use that millions of times a day, every day. The Metaplex, what we call the Metaplex Read API, which is what we have built with Solana Labs and with Triton and with Genesis Go and with many other partners like Solflare, is a disaggregated, is the term that I'm using, decentralized system that the RPC providers run. They run an instance just like they run an instance of the Solana validator code. And this allows, and it's deployed right alongside the JSON RPC system that we know and love today. And it creates a lot of performance advantages as well. We not only serve compressed NFTs, but regular NFTs. If you've ever had to work with a proprietary indexer before, now the data comes in a standardized format that you can build much better, more performant dApps on top of a open source, decentralized community specification. And for indexers can use this as a low-level API to create analytical and historical data systems. I want to stress that anyone can spin up the open source code and run it for yourself. The nice part about this is Solana's doing all the really hard work of validating, and with the validator, the big nodes that we need to run the Solana validator getting smaller and smaller every day, I'm sure, we can now run this Read API on commodity hardware, which means RPC providers can now bring customers over to this, and they can create more stable dApps that don't have to wait for get program accounts to resolve if you're a developer. So it makes things faster. So I would like to shout out the RPC providers we're currently implemented with, and Triton and Genesis Go. They've done an amazing job, GigaBrains, but also the several that I think Ashka mentioned that are actively working on integrating it and running it for themselves today.
Yeah, so as I mentioned before, we're in beta. A large part of the long pole work here is to make sure the ecosystem is ready for compressed asset creation and interoperability. So huge shout out to Solflare, Triton, Genesis Go. We are moving towards integration with Alchemy, Helios, QuickNode, and Phantom will be compatible as well pretty soon. So once we've done that work, the whole ecosystem will be ready for compressed assets, which we're really excited about. I definitely want to keep talking about, Canaan, how you've actually approached your business model as it related to cost, and how you think about kind of compression as like an additive to that.
Sure. I can speak to, we've actually been doing internal compression of NFTs on Solana for quite some time. I think where we are most excited to work with Metaplex and others on this compression standard is seeing it adopted ecosystem-wide will allow compression to mean more than just to the end developer, but the whole ecosystem, right? All the people looking on SolScan and in wallets and on marketplaces, kind of compression there. Speaking to something I said earlier about use cases for NFTs in game, when you're paying $1 per NFT or 30 cents or anything above 1 cent, really, you get into the territory of this cost cannot scale to all of my players. As we've seen some direction from Apple with NFTs on mobile and being able to be sold via IAPs, we are now reaching worldwide and massive distribution of NFTs in games. And so as that applied to Stardust, we took a holistic view and said, we need a way to give NFTs to the masses, right? Far above minting quickly, but minting at scale. And so compression really allows us to do that. It allows us to provide more products to our customers in how we offer value to them for all of their players, not just the few that can afford NFTs, and really just interact with more of the ecosystem that we could not before.
That's great. Austin, when you think about, kind of this being backwards compatible and building it so there's minimal lift or change necessary by ecosystem partners, from a Metaplex perspective, what are some things we need to think through with our existing program library, if anything? Kind of just how are you thinking about it?
Okay. We have a lot of contracts. We have a lot of protocols. There's a lot of community contribution and more to come, I'm sure. We do have to work on our contracts. We have to support looking at the proof nodes. But again, I wanna highlight that there is a Solana program called SPL account compression that is the base layer for this compressed standard. And we will be able to send the proof to that contract to verify if this is the correct data. Like I said, it does require some off-chain coordination, data stored that hashes up to the Merkle root. That's what creates confidence, that's what creates security. And so one part of that is that the Metaplex Read API, we're building in all of the standards that we've created so that it's easier and easier to use these systems. Auction House and other sales protocols. You can sell compressed NFTs, you can list them, you can transfer them, of course, you can update them, but we're rapidly chasing after being able to fractionalize them, fuse them, and do all the normal things that you can do with compressed NFTs. It does take work, and we have to do that work, but Solana Labs and Metaplex Studios, I believe, have made it, have done a really good job of making the core architecture modular and easy to pick up and easy to add new contracts to.
Yeah, that's great. Just as we finish up here, I kind of want to bring it home. We were talking about some of the out-of-box elements that made Solana so great. This should just be out of the box. We shouldn't be talking about this next time we talk in terms of a compressed asset versus an uncompressed asset. It is just enabling minting at scale. So it's an evolutionary pattern. We are all going to do the hard work to make sure the ecosystem's ready, but right now, we are open for customers who actually want to build here. We already have some in the pipeline, so we are locked and loaded. And I just want to appreciate everyone here who's joined to talk through us. The next talk on compression is going to be a lot of user-facing stuff, so we're really excited about that. Vidor, do you have anything to add?
Just wanted to add Soulflare, first wallet to fully support compressed NFTs. We're going to start onboarding developers in the following days, so just reach out if you have interest in the technology. We would like to onboard as many, and obviously start minting NFTs at scale.
Let's do it. All right, thank you very much. Appreciate it.
It's really awesome to work in such an ecosystem where some of these tough technical challenges are being solved. That actually opens up the possibility for completely different use cases. It was really interesting to hear the statistics on what the mint cost will be pre and post compression, which again, just opens up the world of possibilities. Up next, we have another panel which is titled What's Next for Crypto Policy, and that's moderated by Amira from Solana Foundation, and the panelists are Neeraj, Miller, Marina, and Carole. So let's welcome them to the stage. Thank you.
Someone's got some fans out there. Well, thank you so much, everyone, for being here. We have a very spicy and interesting panel planned. So I'll go through, I'll introduce our guests, and then we'll just get right into it. There's a lot to talk about in crypto policy. We'll start off right next to me with Carole House. Carole recently left the White House, where she worked on President Biden's executive order on digital assets and was formerly of the U.S. counterterrorism ransomware campaign. She's currently an executive residence at a venture capital fund focused on national security. She's super deep on these issues. Next to her, we have Marina. Marina Markizek is the founder and director of the European Crypto Initiative. They're the leading organization working on crypto issues in Europe, going to Brussels all the time. Next to her is the American version, Miller, founding director of the DeFi Education Fund, one of the leading organizations on behalf of DeFi in the United States. So these are the guys literally going to Capitol Hill, opening up a laptop and showing people what a DEX is. And then finally, we have Neeraj. Neeraj is the director of communications at Coin Center, or as he's sometimes called, their Twitter guy. Coin Center is a nonprofit think tank and advocacy group dedicated to defending the rights of individuals to build on and use open source cryptocurrency networks. So we got a broad spectrum here. And we're going to kick it off. First, I'll say something, which is I understand this is a global audience. We're going to focus specifically today on US and European crypto policy, just because crypto policy is so broad, we had to start somewhere. So we'll start off talking about a piece of legislation that is getting a big name in Washington, D.C. right now, called the DCCPA. If you've been tracking Twitter controversy, maybe between SBF and Eric Voorhees, they're all talking about the DCCPA. This is a piece of legislation that is pending. So why don't we kick it off at Miller? What's the DCCPA?
Sure. So overall, the DCCPA, its goal is to regulate the crypto spot markets. What I mean by that, you can generally think of custodial exchanges like Coinbase or Kraken. They have customers and exchange digital assets for other digital assets or fiat currencies on behalf of their customers. The DCCPA wants to regulate those spot markets generally. And I think that there's a uncontroversial and then controversial parts of those bills. This bill, excuse me. The CeFi portion, I think, is less controversial than the DeFi portion. What the DCCPA does is it creates a registration and regulatory framework for CeFi. And the issue with the bill, from my perspective right now, is that it intends to apply those CeFi regulations to DeFi protocols and market participants in a uniform way. Depending on how you read it, a DEX protocol, for example, would be captured as a trading facility and would be required to register with a US regulator and implement a bunch of policies that are designed for CeFi businesses, which is impossible to do if we're talking about a DEX protocol or a lending protocol, what have you. So the general issue with the bill is that while it tries to regulate the spot markets, it doesn't distinguish between CeFi spot markets and DeFi spot markets, and therefore, in my opinion, is unworkable from the DeFi ecosystem's perspective.
Yeah, so let's take a step back. What the hell does the SEC and CFTC have to do with everything? Why are we always talking about these guys as the regulators for crypto? Neeraj, do you want to take a crack at that?
Yeah, so cryptocurrency has been used a lot to do things that are typically regulated in the traditional financial world. And of particular interest to the SEC is the use of cryptocurrency for things like capital formation, which is regulated pretty heavily. The ICO boom, we all remember that. So the SEC believes, and I think many legal analysts would agree, that quite a lot of cryptocurrencies that are out there today would fall under the category of a security, and most typically an unregistered security, and that would put it under the remit of the SEC. And I think that if a cryptocurrency is treated as a security, it would be very difficult for it to be traded in a crypto-native way. Being a user would be essentially impossible. So that's why the SEC has taken a great interest in this. Meanwhile, we do know that some cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin and Ether and those like it do not necessarily meet the definitions of a security. They kind of exist in the world as a native internet protocol that is not really owned or controlled by anybody. So that makes the token itself a lot more like a commodity. So we feel the CFTC would have jurisdiction over that. And this is all based on guidance. It's not really codified in law. And that is why there's a little bit of jockeying happening for edge cases, who's in charge.
And so, Coin Center is really involved on a lot of these issues and going to the Hill and lobbying on behalf of specific ideas. And so when you're talking about something like DeFi, what are you willing to compromise when you go into those negotiations, or you go into those the negotiations about bills, and what are you willing to give on? How do you decide that prioritization?
So we prioritize protecting the developers of these protocols. In particular, if you're a developer who simply publishes code, you should not be subject to any type of registration requirement or really any further regulatory burden, because publishing code alone is speech. Now, if you start doing things like promoting use of this particular code or market making and sort of more sophisticated financial elements, then that goes beyond simply publishing code. Another area where we would draw a line is validating transactions or block producing, because let's say a illicit transaction is validated by your node. All you've done is relay information. You haven't actually made the transaction, so you should not be held responsible for that transaction. And finally, somebody who's trading on their own account, just me buying, ETH on Uniswap or whatever, or Sol, excuse me, I should not be treated as some type of dealer or anything like that.
Carole, you spent the first part of your career in the US government. You understand these issues almost as well as anybody who works in the entire US government. When you hear about the DCCPA and maybe the lines that folks like Neeraj and Miller are trying to draw, what's your reaction? Like, where would you draw the line as someone who appreciates crypto but has a different perspective?
Yeah, I really appreciate the thoughtfulness that went into drafting the DCCPA. Optimally, in a world, I would prefer that all legislation be technology neutral, which most CFTC, SEC, Bank Secrecy Act, other legislation tends to be tech neutral, and I think that's the best way to future-proof.
What does it mean to be tech neutral?
Great. So not define something based on the technology or even being digital or electronic in nature, but instead defining it by a type of activity. Like, think about our authorities for money transmission. Our regulations don't say electronic, they don't say physical, they just say accepting and transmitting value that substitutes for currency or funds. So that's an example of where I think that legislation is best focused to be focused on the economic substance of what is happening and defining the kinds of activities and features that are existent. But understanding that that's also not likely right now with crypto legislation, given the current state of the bills that I've seen. I think that the DCCPA is at least as tech neutral as I've seen any of the bills. It doesn't rely on specific types of distributed ledger technologies in a good and helpful way. So I'm excited about it. I think that my feelings towards it echo a lot of what Benham said very recently in his testimony, I think in September. Otherwise, I do think that there's that one key area that it doesn't provide clarity on, which it just may not be scoped to do so, is providing clarity on when is something a commodity. That's really the key issue that I've seen the industry seeking clarity on, and maybe they're looking to the executive branch to be able to provide that clarity, and the Hill may not be taking that up.
That's a really good jumping off point. Miller, I know you and I have talked about how we think about distinguishing between a security and commodity. Like, what principles should underlie that framework? Is that even the right framework?
Yeah, I have one point on the tech neutrality issue. I completely agree with you that I think regulation should be tech neutral, and there's this principle about same activity, same risk, same rules in financial regulation that people talk about a lot. But I think there's some nuance there that sometimes people miss, which is that if an activity is being effectuated in a different way, it can't necessarily be regulated in the same way. A simple, very oversimplified analogy I use is transportation services, like airplanes versus trains. We want everybody to get from point A to point B in a safe way, but obviously it's a very good thing we don't apply the exact same rules to both trains and airplanes to have the same outcome. So I think that it's a hard needle to thread, because if you have some prescriptive portions of a bill, like in DCCPA, you can ruin that tech-neutral principle. For example, by requiring trading facilities to run a central limit order book. So I think that the same rules, same activities, same rules, same risks principle is it's different based on who you ask, I guess I'll say. And then, Amir, I completely, the framing about a security versus commodity in my mind is a distraction in a lot of ways. I think that there's nothing inherently wrong with being a security. I think if we can accomplish the goals of the regulation generally, protecting consumers, preventing illicit finance, et cetera, in a way that allows the technology to remain functionally similar or protects the foundational principles of peer-to-peer markets and crypto markets, then the regulatory classification shouldn't be relevant. Obviously, that's not the case today because we live in a world with pretty prescriptive regulations. And I think, Niraj, you're right that if you are captured as a security today, the problem is not that you're a security. The problem is that there's no way to comply with the regulations as developed for traditional financial markets.
Yeah, part of being the issue of a security means that you have to file reports with the SEC, and for a network like Solana, probably, and Ether and others, there is nobody who has the visibility and sort of control of the network to make those types of declarations, and it kind of doesn't really fit.
Marina, so Europe recently passed a piece of legislation called MiCA that deals with this issue in a really different way. It's really striking to me when you go around the world and talk about SEC, CFTC, or some people talk like the Howey test. They're like, why does the United States deal with it this way? So one, 2 sentences, what is MiCA? And then 2, how does it deal with this issue around how you classify digital assets?
Yes, so MiCA is the Markets in Crypto Assets regulation and has been finalized recently. We had the first draft 2 years ago in 2020, and it took us 2 years to finalize it. Just yesterday, we got the news that the publication in the official journal of the European Union is going to be delayed by another 2 months, and some of the votings linked to that. So we expect it to be applicable in 2024. Somehow in the other part of 2024. So if you think about it, it took us 4 years to basically write this very comprehensive piece of regulation. But it is very important because it was the first one in the EU and globally that basically regulates crypto assets issuance and service providers in a very broad way. So what it defines is what are the obligations of the issuers of crypto assets being representation of assets or rights on the DLT, on blockchain. So basically, everyone that wants to issue a crypto asset, they will need to comply with MiCA, write a white paper, and also, in a way, talk to their national competent authorities about that. And there's the other part that regulates crypto asset service providers, such as exchanges, custodians, etc. And those also have quite restrictive obligations under MiCA. But I would say that what is the most important is the regulation around stablecoins. So basically, MiCA was written because of, in a way, as a reaction to Libra or Diem, if you remember, in 2019. And again, it took us quite some time to kind of decide how to regulate stablecoins, but now we have a regulation, a comprehensive regulation on stablecoins, which in a way sets obligations on reserves and licenses. But what it says in general is that decentralized stablecoins are prohibited in Europe. And I would say that when I take a look at what's happening in the US and think about the future global regulation of crypto assets, it's going to very fragmented, jurisdiction specific. And in this case, I think that maybe the difference between the US and the EU is that securities or financial instruments, as we call them in Europe, are regulated already with a directive, with the MiFID directive, and they're not regulated by MiCA. So MiCA really is talking about this new asset, new crypto assets that is completely a new class. And I would say that would resemble more the understanding of a utility token that we have from the US.
Got it. So MiCA basically says, we have this thing called a security. Let's create a new category for digital assets and work forward from there. Is that right?
Yeah.
So, what some people say in the US is, man, we're so behind Europe. Like, Europe has MiCA, like, we need to catch up. Do you agree with that? Anyone? Miller, do you agree with that?
I don't agree with that. I think, of course, I am a believer that DeFi will revolutionize economic exchange in the future, and I think it's in the US's interest to get it right.
Carole?
Yeah, I typically don't agree with that criticism. There definitely are things that MiCA does, certainly that the US doesn't have, like one established federal requirement and a framework that is specific to DLT-based assets. Instead, our economic principles and technology-neutral-based framework has instead regulated this activity where when what was conducted was the same economic substance and functionally the same activity that had previously been done. For example, money transmission has been regulated in the US involving cryptocurrency since at least 2011. And then you have securities laws and commodity laws that have covered them as well when the asset that's being offered or being traded meets the definitions and the prescriptions of those laws. So I'd say that the US framework is very complex, and I really appreciate the point on the fragmented financial system. I'm not saying that the US regulatory system is not fragmented. I just think it's as fragmented in crypto as it is in traditional finance, traditional financial regulation. I think one real distinction, though, is the stablecoin piece. While there are optional ways to try to get that regulation through getting an OCC fintech charter or working with the states in the United States to get a bank charter, there's not an established mandatory requirement as an issuer or administrator of a stablecoin outside of anti-money laundering at the federal level.
Got it.
So, if I may.
Please.
Yeah, thank you. So I think one of the important things of MiCA is that it doesn't regulate DeFi. It doesn't regulate decentralized entities, at least in very general terms. And what is maybe comparing to what you said, it is a regulation, which means that in Europe it's going to be directly applicable and identical in all the member states, which in a way is very positive. If anyone would like to access the European market, they will have the same rules all over all the member states.
Got it.
Yeah, if it's okay, one point I wanted to bring up, because I know that Niraj spoke about it earlier, about validators. I'll say in the United States, they're not covered as financial institutions under regulations like SEC and CFTC, but there are regulations like IEPA, which is the fundamental legislative authorities underneath our sanctions regime, where it's possible that validators that are US persons, if they're validating transactions going to designated persons under strict liability standards, it's possible that there's sanctions implications there. So given that sometimes miners and validators are viewed as part of that DeFi community, I just wanted to mention that the regulatory framework expands beyond just the financial institution requirements.
Carole dropping bombs, talking about sanctioning validators. Okay. So this is a good time for us to move on to the second part of the discussion, which has to do with Tornado Cash and sanctions more broadly. Carole, you actually were in the US government and I think worked on the Tornado Cash decision. I know you can't comment on directly. I really thank you for being here and commenting sort of about the sanctioning process more broadly. And I want to take a second and be in your shoes. What happens when the United States government is choosing to sanction anything? And actually, I want to take a step back and make sure that we sort of set the ground, or set the foundation, which is in August, the United States Department of Treasury sanctioned virtual currency mixer Tornado Cash. And this was a controversial decision for many in the crypto community. So if you haven't heard about that, we'll get into it. But that's sort of the background of why this is so relevant. So what does it look like when the United States government sanctions anyone?
Yeah, so first I'll say that OFAC, the Office of Foreign Assets Control inside of the US Treasury, fully administers the sanctions regime under authorities that are granted from the president. So all of that is administered by OFAC. OFAC makes those decisions under the Department of the Treasury. So all those decision-making authorities exist there. Of course, those sanctions regimes are administered as a part of a broader community in the executive branch as well as the legislative branch. At the time of some of the designations involving North Korea's hack of the Axie Infinity platform and some other illicit activities, I was at the National Security Council. The NSC is a critical partner with OFAC and Treasury, as is the Department of State and the Department of Justice and even the regulators. So the point of our sanctions regimes in the United States is to try to impose costs on adversaries and to try to drive a change in strategic behavior in order to reduce or mitigate a threat to U.S. national security or economy or foreign policy objectives. So in the light of those types of threats as they come up, like what you see with Russia's original invasion into Ukraine, and then their continued unprovoked acts of aggression there. That's why the US and many of our international partners brought on another tranche of sanctions in 2022. We also have sanctions against Iran, against North Korea jurisdictionally, and then we also bring specific sanctions against particular actors under programs like our cyber sanctions program. So in light of all of those, based on the threats that they pose and discussions across the national security community, there's discussions about what entities should be specifically designated underneath those particular authorities. I'll also just highlight that I don't speak for the administration anymore, and I'm not a lawyer, so anything that I talk about on sanctions is just the view from a former Fed.
This isn't legal advice. So basically, State Department, Department of Defense, the NSC, a bunch of folks who are involved get together, sort of advise OFAC on who they should designate as a sanctioned entity, and OFAC administers the sanction and makes the final decision and the enforcement. Neeraj, why is Coin Center suing the US government?
Yeah, so as Amira mentioned, the sanction of Tornado Cash was a huge moment for the cryptocurrency community. It's the first time that a smart contract was itself sanctioned rather than some sort of foreign entity. And Coin Center immediately filed a lawsuit. Coinbase also, I think, funded a lawsuit. Basically both making roughly the same argument that the authority that has been extended by Congress to the Treasury Department to execute sanctions stops just short of sanctioning an unowned piece of the internet, like Tornado Cash. So previously, there have been sanctions against mixers like Blender.io, which are companies. There was a person, a server in the middle that took a cut, and all the funds sort of flowed into the one server and then back out. So that is a clear entity. The Tornado Cash smart contract, nobody has any control over it. The actual developers of Tornado Cash sort of set it loose in the world, and it simply is a tool that anyone can use for their own privacy. So our lawsuit makes this sort of very technical, wonkish policy argument that the government did not actually have the authority to sanction Tornado Cash because it is not itself a foreign person or a foreign entity. It simply is a tool that exists on the internet.
Got it. So you said, or Tornado Cash said, Tornado Cash isn't an entity, and the US government can only sanction entities and individuals.
Yes.
Carole, what does the US government consider an entity or individual?
Great. And again, not commenting at all on this particular case. And I'll say that the definitions for person and entity differ based on the specific regulatory authority or statutory authority that's being administered. You have different definitions for person under IEPA for sanctions, under CFTC requirements, like you saw in the recent action against a DAO that CFTC announced, and then also under the Bank Secrecy Act. But most of them have some pretty common parallels in that the definition for person is typically an individual or an entity. Then unpacked underneath what is an entity, there's a list of different things, which could be partnerships, it could be joint ventures, it could be trusts, it can be corporations. It can also be organizations. Specifically in the Bank Secrecy Act, it even states unincorporated organizations. So I think you've seen the government take interpretations that entities that may not exist as legal registered corporations, like for example in CFTC's recent DAO action, that they view this to be an unincorporated association because of its working together in mutual partnership towards a common objective, an association that these folks are participating in, driving towards a common objective. I know that I've seen the community often really focus on the first letter in DAO, decentralized, and therefore that means that we're not an entity to be regulated. I would encourage the sector to think that I would expect that the government would look at the third letter in DAO, organization, which is present in every single definition of person that I've spoken about here, and I'm sure many others underneath US authorities.
Anyone want to respond?
Yeah, I think that the UkiDAO action is different than the Tornado Cash action from that perspective for a couple of reasons. Number one, the Treasury Department didn't sanction the token holders, the DAO itself, number one. And I think number two, the to Niraj's point, the Tornado Cash smart contracts will exist in their current form as long as the Ethereum blockchain is running.
The Tornado Cash DAO does exist, but it does not have any control over the particular smart contract that was sanctioned.
Exactly. Several smart contracts that were sanctioned.
Yeah.
And I think from like a more macro perspective, it's important to remember that sanctions are designed to change the behavior of foreign nationals in some way that the US government finds beneficial. And if you have an immutable smart contract, which is literally impossible to change the behavior of, the effect of the Tornado Cash smart contract sanctions was to impart, without due process, civil and criminal liability on US citizens. And if there's no hope of the goal of sanctions being achieved, I think that is a misguided policy choice.
Niraj, you look like you're about to say something.
I was thinking about how to say it. So also, it's worth noting that most users of the Tornado Cash smart contract were not using it for illicit activity, and it's not illegal for me to deposit my own money into Tornado to break the chain of custody because someone on Twitter is sneaking on what NFTs I'm buying and lost money on, right? So I don't want to, if I want to use that tool, I am in no way doing business with a foreign national or anyone who might be sanctioned. It's simply a privacy tool for my own use.
That's another good point. It's when you deposit your assets into this Tornado Cash smart contracts, when they're eventually pulled out, they're the exact same assets. You're not exchanging them with a potentially foreign sanctioned entity, what have you. So I think there are several unique factors in this instance.
Carole, I want to give you a chance to respond, and then we could talk about Europe for a second. But anything that you want to say that's responsive or too close to home?
Yeah, again, not specifically speaking to this action, just because it all occurred while I was still a part of the government. I'll highlight that part of the sanctions process that is accounted for is thinking about how do we mitigate potential unintended consequences for humanitarian and other purposes. So there are licensing regimes and other ways that people can apply to be able to engage in such transactions. Since OFAC decided to designate this entity, I think would totally defer to them. I think that's probably implicated in the questions that I know have been asked here about how it is that they're determining that there was an entity here and not just something that's software. But I just wanted to highlight that there are broader considerations and processes to be able to engage more fully. And IEPA authorities, even underneath the authorities to the president, there's a specific carve-out for things that are like telegraphic communications that do not involve a transfer of value. I think it's that value transfer piece that obviously most sanctions regimes are totally founded upon.
To that point, one of the co-plaintiffs in our lawsuit, well, I guess us as well. So we received donations through Tornado Cash. Coin Center is a nonprofit funded by the community. Thank you. And so we do not want to be in a position where we have to report on our donors or have our donors revealed. If they want to stay private to make the political speech donation that is a donation to Coin Center, they should be allowed to. Also, there's a group that is sending funds to Ukraine, and they don't, they fear being targeted by the Russians for this action, so they also were using Tornado Cash. So there are humanitarian uses for this.
So that actually segues nicely into my next question, which is Marina, I want to bring you in the conversation here. Did Tornado Cash have any impact on the situation in Europe? What did you see as the fallout from that locally?
Yeah, that's a very interesting question, because I think that a lot of Europeans might not be aware of potentially being a US person. So that's the first thing. It can be quite complicated to understand if you are or not. So
sorry, how is that possible? How would I not know if I'm a US person?
I think just because of we heard the definition before. So it's set as individuals, but also entities. So what is in a US entity? It can be like a kind of a mix of an entity that might be have some elements in the EU and in the US. So
if I'm working for an American company or a DAO or something like that.
Yeah. And I think this is quite an important first one. And then secondly, de facto, it's really hard for the European persons, individuals or entities, to use Tornado Cash right now, although the sanctions were not directed to them. Just because, of course, there's no front end anymore, there's no code on GitHub because it was shut down, and also most of the services, different protocols, but also applications, dApps, they did implement those sanctions in a very general way. So in a way, it was not directed to, I would say, Europeans, but also the rest of the world. But right now, there is an implication to the usage of Tornado Cash also for those persons.
I want to move on to talking about privacy more generally in Web3. So we can talk sort of more broadly. What's the layer at which we should start thinking about privacy in Web3? Should it be at the protocol layer? Should it be the validator layer? Should it be at the application layer? What is the right way to think about how you preserve privacy? Let's jump in. Neeraj, Coin Center.
I don't want to dictate where the market should land, but I think that privacy at the protocol layers should be a priority, right? The less information is leaking, the better.
I agree. I think that one of the primary impediments to broad adoption of blockchains right now is how surveillable they are. And I think that if you're a business, you don't want your competitors seeing every transaction you make being a simple example. And I think the same is true for individuals. It's pretty easy to track people's wallets across blockchains. And financial privacy is important for a host of reasons, including political donations. So I think that at the base layer, if privacy is incorporated, it'll be the best for everybody.
Yeah, I want to be as private as cash, paper cash.
You're chomping at the bit here.
I would agree that the base layer neutrality is super important. And of course, maybe adding another European story to this. We are having right now negotiations on the EU level on AML. There is a whole AML package that has been discussed in the parliament at the moment.
And
specifically.
what's AML?
Yeah, the anti-money laundering regulation right now specifically in the European Parliament. And some of the rules that are defined in the transfer funds regulation and also in the AMLR will have a very similar effect as the OFAC sanctions, specifically on the EU market. And I think that we really, at least right now, we're very actively looking into those regulations and the amendments that have been just issued. And I think that not just by looking into what OFAC does, but looking into what are the new laws that are being discussed at the moment that will have a very similar effect. I think this is also quite important.
Yeah.
Carole?
Great. I have so many feelings about privacy in the world of DeFi, and I know that I'm not on exactly the same calibration as the folks on the stage with me, as well as I'm sure many in the room. But first, to help you understand where I come from and where I think a lot in government do. Basically, first, privacy does not mean anonymity. It means the availability of data that can be disclosed or discoverable under certain conditions, permissions, and protections. So that's a critical piece, that privacy and anonymity are not the same thing. So I think that there are discussions about what is the amount of data that should be able to be held, to be discoverable by whom, under what conditions and protections, and when it should be discoverable by others. But I'll highlight as kind of a call to innovation by the incredible builders that are in this room, because I absolutely believe that technology will solve these policy problems. The reason why regulators are so concerned about the world of DeFi and Web3, rails that had traditionally been bifurcated. We've all talked about this forever. The internet and information transfer, where we like to be able to establish identity and trust on either side of an information transaction. Like we can, that's available. However, we don't want that. Like we don't like identity being tied to everything involving information transfer. That makes us feel very it makes us very itchy sometimes when we think about identity and information transfer and everything we do on the internet, versus value transfer, pipes like Fedwire and chips, or Swift, which I know is information transfer, but for a value transfer, where we're very used to identity being built into cross-border transfers, and things that, unlike with cash and crypto, there's distinctions where cash takes time and space and physics to move, and crypto does not. So, and the fact that things are public ledgers is not inevitable, as we've discussed here. That's often viewed as a bug, not a feature of these systems. So, like, even the potential benefit that you get of traceability that you get with crypto that you don't with cash may be going away with the implementation of privacy technologies. So now you have the same rails that can facilitate information and value transfer simultaneously. And with the right encryption, you can't tell which is happening, an information transfer or a value transfer. This is a very interesting and very tough regulatory problem and technological problem of, like, I don't think that the future of, if it's truly a future of a decentralized financial system, you know, I like intermediaries. I don't keep all my cash underneath my mattress, but who am I to tell you not to keep your cash there in unhosted wallets? I think intermediaries play a critical role with visibility and regulation, but also with reducing friction and providing great higher order developments for consumers. But ultimately, if the future is decentralized, there has to be a discussion about, and there has to be innovation on the policy and the tech side to make sure that appropriate identity is available, discoverable, disclosable. So anyway, I do think that identity is a critical component of the future of DeFi and Web3.
So I want to push you a little. So at what layer do you think privacy is important? Or maybe at what layer do you think that there should be I guess, an intermediary? What do we declare an intermediary?
Yeah, I mean, I think that it could exist. It could exist at the protocol layer, and it could also exist at the application layer and through governance by establishing trusted identity authorities. And there's a digital identity certificate that can be carried around, and you don't get access to services unless you've been validated as yes, not designate or something. I don't know. Smarter people than me, like all of you out there, are going to solve this problem. I'm just smart enough to see that there's a problem, not to solve it. But I think that there's a lot of different options. All the way through the tech stack, from governance and market, all the way down to user and protocol.
From a regulatory perspective, where should we be preserving privacy? So we heard, you know, definitely at the protocol layer, I think, from Neeraj, Miller, and Marina. Does that make sense to you also?
I mean, I think that that's a good place to. It's a good place to put it. It really depends on the specific ecosystem. For some, like in a more centralized system, I think protocol is a good place to put it or build it in, and especially for decentralized systems too. Yeah, honestly, it really is going to be systems-based, and a lot of very key discussions about which intermediaries do you want to impose obligations on. Like, I am not convinced that miners escape ever being treated as a key financial service provider if the future is truly decentralization. They may. If intermediaries continue to play a critical role as currently defined, maybe miners never get covered beyond things like sanctions compliance. But they could be. Like, I could imagine that might be part of the future, where there might need to be some kind of validation of some kind of information, even if it's not your PII, but it is that you are not designated or some other kind of illicit actor or validation. So I think privacy really means defining what is the type of information that needs to be seen by what players in order to mitigate what the risk looks like. If the DeFi sector arises to this challenge by building in technologies and governance controls that mitigate the risk, there may not be a need for future regulatory impositions.
Right, so you're saying builders should come before regulators in terms of figuring out how to balance this need between privacy and enforcement.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
Marina, you look like you're about to say something.
I just wanted to comment, speaking about privacy and also crypto transactions. In spring this year in Europe, we had the fight of basically, there was a possibility of unhosted wallets, as our regulation calls them, being prohibited, which is one of the most important elements in crypto and crypto transactions. And we were discussing with regulators at that time. We wanted to make them understand that there's so much data available publicly on the blockchain. And then when combined with the data that specific crypto as a service providers need to collect, there could be a lot of potential bridges. And there is also a very European element to this, if I may. Most of the service providers and payment providers are not EU-based. And so Europeans are very concerned about data and their privacy, which you can also see on how GDPR is in a way written and defined. So I think that it's also very, very important for us to make the best of educating regulators and make them understand that this is a little bit different, is specific, and also try to use the public data in case they would want to fight criminal activities.
I want to, in the last few minutes, give us a couple of rapid-fire questions. So we're going to go down the line. We're going to zoom out a little bit. I want everyone to make a prediction for 2023 and what you think will happen on the policy front. So we'll start with Neeraj and go down the line.
More enforcement actions. Definitely more enforcement actions, I think.
From who?
Probably the SEC, perhaps more from the CFTC. I think that the regulations around what is and isn't a security in particular have been pretty... There's a lot of things out there that very clearly fall into the is an unregistered security category, and I think that the cadence of those enforcements is going to pick up.
Miller?
I think dollar stablecoin legislation will pass in the U.S.
Stablecoin legislation will pass in the U.S.?
Yep.
Okay, big prediction. Marina?
The markets in crypto assets regulation and transfer funds regulation are going to be published in the European Union Journal. And I think there's going to be a lot of activities on the national competent authorities and agencies like ESMA and EBA trying to finalize the last technical aspects of the implementation of MiCA. And we are also seeing some of the ideas around the first regulation of NFTs, so maybe some ideas around metaverse. But what's also very concerning at the moment in Europe is the energy crisis. So we've been looking into blockchains and crypto assets and how much they into their energy consumption. So we might hear some news from that front too.
Be more specific. What do you think on the energy front?
So there's been already some documentation written by the European Commission on how the classification of different crypto assets should be done in linked to their energy consumption. And many times I've been to one of the conferences last week in Brussels. A lot of regulators are thinking how to, in a way, limit the use of Bitcoin or proof of work in a way. Again, we had this discussion in spring, and proof of work, there was a discussion of prohibiting proof of work in different ways, but it will be definitely limited in a way that it could be potentially taxed more just because of the energy consumption.
So Europe will limit the use of Bitcoin.
Yeah.
And Carole?
Yeah, I totally agree with all these points. Enforcement, whether it's SEC, CFTC, FinCEN, IRS, maybe OFAC. I definitely think there'll be a focus on stablecoin legislation, but also something in the US under the competitiveness framework that was just published by the Department of Commerce for the first time ever. There's specific prongs of a framework to try to drive US competitiveness in DLT and broader fintech technologies. So I'm looking forward to the research and development authorities that really get brought to the table in 2023 related to this tech.
More American investment in Web3 as opposed to regulating in Web3. Okay. Last 2 minutes. Each of you has one sentence. What is a call to action that you want to leave our audience with? What's one thing you want them to do or a message that you want to leave them with? Neeraj?
I mean, I'm supposed to say donate to Coin Center, right? That would be the most important one. But I guess what really helps us is if you guys out there are building things that have really clear use cases and are particularly advancing privacy and things like that. So just keep doing what you're doing, I guess, and
keep building great
useful.
things. Miller.
Make a mass consumer product. That's a good answer. My answer is explain to your political representatives why you care about crypto and DeFi.
Call your congressperson or your parliamentarian.
Yeah,
Marina.
I think it's it's an amorphous concept to most people in government, and I think hearing from constituents that are proponents is absolutely vital.
Great. Marina?
I would say reach out to your national advocacy organization, but at the same time, maybe think about the values and the hard questions that now also regulators are posing, and in a way self-regulate. We know the Terra Luna story, and the consequence of this is that we have an article in MiCA talking about this specific kind of stablecoins, and I believe this is very similar to what happened in the US too. So I think it's best to hear less about the bad stories and work on a positive narrative around crypto.
Great. And Carole?
Great. I'm sure no surprise. It's really, I would call you all to think about that nexus and that focus on areas between privacy and identity. I actually think that is the beating heart of like a common thread behind navigating these issues properly in the future of regulation and defining what the future of the internet can look like upon rails that can support both value transfer and information transfer simultaneously. So I think that tech can help solve this problem, but we need people coming to the table with their builder capabilities and mindsets, with a little bit of sympathy towards the regulators and empathy towards the objectives that they're trying to drive and protect you all.
And I would say, please engage with crypto policy and track what's going on wherever you live. And that's it. Thank you all so much. And thank you to our amazing panelists.